Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We're Screwed. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, fucker?
I'm doing pretty good, motherfuckers. How you guys doing tonight?
All right, this show is going to be fun. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Old boy told me right before we went on he's got some stuff to talk about. Something I think about the Breakfast Club or something. So I'm going to turn over to old boy and let him basically say whatever the hell it is he wants to talk about, and we'll get into it. So, old boy, go ahead, bro.
Well, first off, let's just if you notice, there's one of us missing. Andy had an emergency, so just so you guys know, Andrew and Andy couldn't make it. So, um, maybe we'll have him back next week for sure. Um, because he had a family emergency. One of his family members are sick, so we're gonna wish them and his family member, his uncle, a speedy recovery. Um, so And people are going to say, what the fuck are you talking about? 80s movies. Well, just like I said, we talk about every fucking thing. So I watched this documentary. You guys seen the guy? I forget what his fucking name is, but he did the documentary about the Brat Pack. I think you guys all know there's like 10, 15 of them. There's some that don't consider them, some that do. It was the guy who played Pretty in Pink. The guy played Blaine. And he made a documentary about the Brat Pack in the 80s. And he was going around. I didn't get to see all of it. I only saw about an hour of it. I still need to watch the last part of it. And after they made it, they were slamming him because he was so worried about getting a reunion going, but it didn't work out that way. Some of these people didn't even want to meet up with him. And I'll get into this. So I'm a big fan of the 80s. I was born in 78. James was born, I think, in 74. And he knows who the Brat Pack was. He grew up in the 80s, and so did I. Most of it. And I grew up, most of my teenage years was in the 90s. But I'm still a big fan of the 80s. My favorite time, I think. Horror movies, music, everything. Toys, cartoons. It was just the best. Um, So the Breakfast Club, you guys know what it is. It's one of my favorite movies all time. I know James likes it. Pretty in Pink was a great movie. Weird Science. John Hughes made a lot of these movies, and that was, and John Hughes was I think was very, what I've read about and what I saw. You guys got to check. I got to find out which channel it was. I'll let James because I know he's gonna want to watch it. Um, it was about John Hughes and some of these movies. Is he was really not a big popular guy in high school, so he made movies about it. Even Uncle Buck, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, he made those movies. A lot of people don't know. It wasn't just these 80 kid movies and stuff like that, Weird Science, stuff like that. So the guy was pissed off because I guess it ruined his career. He's saying it, he didn't think about it much, but now all of a sudden that being in the Brat Pack ruined his career. And like they did a review and said he's cringy and he's coming off weird. And I think he's not over it. He never really got over it and never will. Then he saw Emilio Estevez and he kind of didn't want to talk about the Breakfast Club or in the 80s movies he's been in. St. Amu's Fire and all those. Rob Lowe, he caught. I didn't. I think he was gonna. I didn't see that one. And Molly Ringworm, worm. I don't know how to say her fucking name. My friend looks like her. She and I always had a crush on her. I thought she was beautiful. And I'm not a big redhead fan, and not saying that anything redheads are ugly. I just never really attracted to redheads. That James is opposite, but I thought she was so beautiful, and I liked her. She was just so innocent and cute, and just had a sassy side to her. And I was like, I always had a crush on her, like, and crazy as so does my wife. That's another story. And he was going around talking to a lot of these people, her and these Brat Packs in these movies. Ali she was there and she was kind of like cool about it. And she didn't like really, she was like just different. And I guess he said he had a crush on her and she started smiling and stuff. Whatever. That's their business. And then there's another couple of them. I don't know all their names. I know Demi Moore was there. He did things. And she was cool about it. She was like, I was a part of it. I'm glad I was. Um, John Cusack was there too. I think he's a part of it. God, what's his name? Tom something Howe. C. Howe. The guy was in Word Science, and he was also in Breakfast Club. The nerdy kid who tried to kill himself with a flare gun. Remember, he couldn't pass the test, guys. You know, I don't know if J.C. Thomas C. Howe or something. I forget his name. He was one of them. Emilio Estevez, and Rob Lowe, Ali Sheehy, Mary Ringwald. God, there's a couple. The guy who played Blaine, he was in it. The guy who played Ducky, I don't remember his name, but he never really did anything other than 3.5 Men. Then he got blew up with Charlie Sheen. But he was considered. But then he said he couldn't stand those guys. He said a lot of them were assholes, and they thought they were better. He was on that documentary, and he said it. He didn't want to be them or something, and he kind of looked like he was jealous, bro, because he wasn't considered that. Because even with that movie he made, because it was made for Matthew Broderick, he was part of that group, and then he doesn't want to talk about it because he ended up becoming bigger, and Tom Cruise ended up being in that. A lot of people in Risky Business, and that one where he slides and he's dancing in his underwear, and he blew up really big, and he didn't want to. He doesn't consider himself that either. Here's what I'm going to say. And I know they may never see this show. If it wasn't for your movies, and I know some of these people don't. Oh, I want to go on with my life. You don't understand the stuff that you've done. You've changed a whole generation of people. Yeah, maybe the newer generation doesn't know you guys, and trust me, they do, because the Mighty Ducks is popular, and so is the Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. People still talk about these movies. And Bueller's Day Off. That's another one that everybody talks. You can watch it on anything. You have to understand something. Never be ashamed of who you are. It doesn't matter if you either got big or you didn't. You changed people. And you might not think that now, but you did. Those movies changed a whole generation of people and still do. People still love those movies. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Oh, they said, yes, a bunch of kids know. No one, maybe 10 people know. So what? It doesn't matter. We know. Those movies were great. You know how many times I've watched The Breakfast Club over and over? I've probably seen that movie 10,000 times. The soundtrack, Don't Forget About Me, that's one of the greatest songs of all time, in my opinion. Everybody fucking uses that song on TikTok. Everybody does that part where he puts his hand. There's people who do memes on this shit. They do remember, trust me. Pretty in Pink is another movie that everybody remembers, even though everybody doesn't like Blaine. Now everybody wishes Ducky would have got the girl because Blaine was an asshole in the show, and he looks like one now. And I'm not saying you're a bad dude, but you're too worried about what happened back in the 80s. You should have thought about that then, bro. You know what? You're in a movie that everybody likes. And I guess he did some other movies, but everybody's going to remember Pretty in Pink. So who gives a fuck? You did something that no one else is going to ever do. You were in a movie most people are going to watch for the rest of time. The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. People are going to see those movies and watch them forever. It doesn't matter if there's no, but people are going to do it. It changed me. I love those movies. I know James does. Those movies, without those movies, you wouldn't have the Generation X. That's a lot of where we learned a lot of shit. Don't be embarrassed of it. Yeah, I get it. You didn't make a lot of money, some of you guys. Some of you guys did. It doesn't matter. You're remembered forever. Don't be ashamed of that. Don't let some idiot who wrote it, and I guess the guy wrote the article about the Brat Pack saying shit about him, and it said something about him being jealous. You know, who cares, bro? It was back in the 80s. You know, maybe he had an issue with you guys. Who gives a fuck? People talk shit about everybody. That's just how it goes. We deal with it every day. We have people 1 minute hate us, next minute they like us, and then they don't like us, and then they hang out with their enemies, and then they do. Fuck it, that's how it's going to be. That's just life, dude. People are going to do what they're going to say and say what they're going to say. They're jealous. They're never going to be you, bro. Don't fucking feel bad because somebody said you need to get over this shit. Fuck it. You made a documentary. Cool. I know James gonna go watch it. A lot of people are gonna watch it. A lot of people have watched it. It's popular. It's a popular subject. The Brat Pack made some great movies, dude. I agree. I don't care what people think. I watched them. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch some of these movies? They were great, dude. Bueller Day Off. I was never a fan of that movie, dude. I thought that guy was a dick, dude. Matthew Broderick was all right. I like him. I like him in War Games because he made War Games too. A lot of people don't realize that's another John Hughes movie. And that was a good movie because he got into, and that wasn't really that was more of a suspense. He got into and started at war. You know, that's pretty crazy. But then you got this fucking dickhead kid running around the streets of Chicago, and he stole his best friend. It was probably the most annoyingest fucking crybaby I've ever met in my life, and I wanted to slap the fuck out of him. But then the part where he stands up to his dad for once because dad had a fucking Ferrari or what I think was a Lamborghini or Porsche. I don't know what the fuck it was. I would have beat that kid and thrown him out the fucking window. He did what he did, letting his buddy fucking ride around Chicago. But whatever. I guess they had to prove a point back then that, you know, money, his car was more, he loved his car more than he loved his kid. And back then, the 80s were a different time. But you had this asshole kid pretending he was sleeping in his room, and he really wasn't. So he was this smart, dude. And he did all kinds of crazy shit, and he did singing. And I know you've seen the movie. I just never liked that movie. It had Charlie Sheen in it, making out with his sister. But at the time, Charlie Sheen was in jail at 20, and his sister was like 16. So I mean, you know, we all know the stories of pedophilia anyway around that time. So it makes no sense. It makes some sense there. But I like Pretty in Pink. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I thought it was a good movie. 16 Candles is a great movie. Uncle Buck's a great movie. I think I love John Candy. Trains, Planes, and Automobiles was a great movie. I could keep going on. The Breakfast Club, and Weird Science is great, dude. I mean, everybody was in love with that chick. I thought it was great. It was kind of weird that a grown woman's running around with teenage men, and but back in the 80s, there was a different time. Some of that stuff now, watching Word Science, I'm like, you can't do that no more. But hey, it was a great movie. I get it. But we all like those kind of movies. There's a St. Ami's Fire. I wasn't a big fan of. I think they try to go more adult-ish, and it just didn't work. And I think it was kind of, the Brat Pack was kind of dying out then. And I saw that movie, and it was like, you had Emilio Estevez chasing after this chick that didn't want him because he didn't have money. And then they had Rob Lowe running around doing drugs. And I think there's a couple other people were in it. I think, who else was well, he wasn't a part of it. The guy plays Iron Man. Fuck, I can't even remember. Oh, Robert Downey Jr. was in a couple of those movies, but he wasn't a star. He was like a side-on act. So I can't really add him into it. John Cusack was in one movie. The one where he holds up the radio James, where he's playing Paul Gabriel. You remember that? What was that movie called? You remember? Where he's playing a song for that girl. Yeah, and it's in the girl's dad goes to jail because he's like laundering money or something. Say Anything. I think that's what it was. That's it. That was a great movie. And I think those are great movies, and I would never be ashamed of it. I guess that, if you're trying to be some kind of actor and you never really did too many big movies after that, I get it. You're going to get kind of pissed off, but don't ever be ashamed of that. If you guys see this, don't ever be ashamed, because you changed a lot of people, and you still do. People love those movies. I love them. And I know what do you guys talk about? The reason I saw it last week, and I wanted to talk about it because I'm a part of that generation. James is a part of that generation. And that was the part I was going to talk about. Why do people like the 80s? Everybody likes the 80s. The music was fucking awesome. The 90s were great too. But I still like the 80s. I'm sorry, guys. Packaged toys. The best feeling I ever got was my dad taking me to the store and buying me He-Man or G.I. Joe or Transformers. My first Transformer was Megatron, dude. That fucking thing. I played with that motherfucker every day until it found the mud pit, and that's what happened. But that was my GoButs. What else? Thundercats. I love that era. Like, every time I see something from the 80s and I have to watch it. I could sit here all day, and my favorite movie of all time, The Evil Dead 1 and 2 movies, are from the 80s. It's just the greatest generation, I think. I'm sorry. You were born in 78. Okay, I was a year and a half in 70s. So get the fuck over it. I grew up in the 80s, guys. I was watching cable TV in 1982 while my parents were sleeping at 5 and 6, watching the Beastie Boys at 2 o'clock in the morning on cable TV. And you had this cable box that had the little numbers. You remember that? You had that old ass fucking disc kind of looking controller. And that's what I would do. MTV was the shit in the 80s and 90s. It sucks. I don't care what MTV was so fucking great. Do you know how many videos I seen? They were just, everybody listened to every kind of music. There wasn't just one this, you listen to rap, you listen to everything. Michael Jackson was a god then, dude. Like he made like 1,000 different videos, and I used to watch it. And I thought they were crazy. I thought it was great. Madonna, I was in love with Madonna at fucking 5. I loved that chick. I don't know now. I don't know more, but that's was me. I was in. I thought she was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Look at the movies with the Goonies. Corey Feldman, I got to meet him, and people thought I was crazy. I actually fucking talked to the dude. I do. I met him. He was great. My wife met him. He's still gonna be on my fucking show, and I promise that. And he's made some great movies. Goonies, Stand by Me, The Gremlins, Friday the 13th Part 4. He was in that. He was in when he was a little kid. Him and Kurt Russell were in Fox and the Hound. He was the voice. I'm a hound dog. That's him. A lot of people, how the fuck you know that? Now, a lot of people make fun of him because of Michael Jackson. He still thinks he's Michael Jackson. But you know what? That's him. He grew up with the dude. And he says some of the shit that they're saying isn't true. The guy was around him all the fucking time, dude. That was his idol, guys. Think about it. I understand what Michael Jackson did, and I'm not excusing it. But in the 80s, he wasn't accused of that shit. That was like his best friend. He was hanging out with that dude all the time. Sometimes people you love, it's hard to realize what they were and what they are. And and even though you can't be around them, you still gonna. He doesn't believe it. Macaulay Culkin said the same shit. He said he didn't do anything. I'm not gonna say he did or didn't. I have my opinions, but I'm just going on 80s. I don't want to, because Macaulay Culkin was more of a 90s guy, and I have no problem with the 90s. I like the 90s too, but I'm more of an 80s kid, man. I know James loved the 80s. I look at the movies were from the 80s. There's some great ass movies. Most of our shit we talk about are about 80s, bro. You missed the 80s. I know you do. Fuck. It was a great time. You could go outside till 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. You didn't have to worry about somebody killing you. But let's be fair, there was ghettos and there's shit that was going on, and people were throwing it under the ground, not telling people anything now, and now we see what's gone on with that, and they should have done a better job of it, of maybe helping people and getting that change, but that's a whole nother story. I didn't have to worry about that shit. I mean, you had to worry about somebody trying to kidnap you. That was always something that was talked about since I was a kid, but I had a great time. I don't regret my kid childhood. Getting picked on and beaten the fuck up and abused and mentally abused, that's something different. That's a whole different story, guys, and I don't want to get into that. I want to think happy for once, and I don't get a lot of happiness in my life. I mean, with my wife and stuff, I'm talking about with that part of it. Now I'm good, but in a long time ago, not too much. And that's why I talk to people in my neighborhood, because I've had a couple people die that was in my neighborhood. They were a big part of my life. And I don't hate them and feel any odd, I'm happy they passed away, and I'm not. It's just I don't want to bring it up anymore. Honestly, if I was now, I wouldn't even talk to them. And it was a great time at that time, and I had a couple good times with them. And that's what I remember them as. I don't want to, I had a good time when I was 20, and I didn't see you after that ever fucking again. So, I'm just going to remember you then. And things happen like that. You move on and grow up. That's what it was, is their childish times. But I had a good life, like, with some of my friends. That's one thing I'm not going to lie. And 80s was a big part of that, because when I was a younger kid, I got picked on. So my route was watching wrestling and watching movies, and I got away from it for a while. I got to see the hero or the chick that I wanted, I would love to date. I was one of those guys that never, didn't get a lot of girls at first. And, now it's a whole different it's a whole different world now. But I was one of those dorky guys that didn't get a lot of women when I was young. And like, I was like, man, the hero's winning. And that's what was so cool about those movies, but they weren't realistic. That doesn't really happen all the time. But at least in a movie, you can get away for a couple hours. In the Breakfast Club, I wish I could have lived in that time, because I understand a movie, but I know that was kind of going on at that time. That's why people were like that. They were talking about how the kids You know, they didn't like the government how it was. That's why a lot of punk music. Look at the fucking music it came from the 80s and 90s. It just was better than anything else. Even rap, anything. I'm just saying all together, country. Maybe you could throw the 70s too. You got to throw that in there, and people are going to say the 60s, the Beatles. But more shit was going on in 80s, 90s, in my opinion. And that's stuff that people are still doing now. Like, people are still talking about the 80s and 90s every fucking day. Everything we see, every song is about an 80s or 90s song. You know why? Because it was a fucking awesome time. Those movies were awesome. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to watch those till I die. Me and my wife, every couple weeks, we'll have 80s day. I'll watch 80s movies. The Breakfast Club's one of them. Pretty in Pink's another. 16 Candles, Weird Science, all these movies I watch over and over. The Goonies, fucking all of them. The Legend movie with Tim Curry, great actor, one of the most underrated actors of all times. Dude, I don't know if you've seen him. He's in a wheelchair now. I feel so bad. He was a wonderful actor. I know James knows that Tim Curry is, and he made some great movies. The original the guy who played the original Pennywise. Guy's made so many great movies, and fuck, no one, everybody just remembers him the people he played. They remember him as playing Pennywise, except now they did the new Pennywise, and they remember him as the demon from Legend, and Rock, and the biggest part is Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was the main actor there, and he was in Treasure Island, and that way he just everything he ever did he was really good at. And I think he should have been the Grinch, but he just got too old, and he looked like, and he acted kind of had that attitude. Like, if you ever watched the original cartoon of the Grinch, he talked like the Grinch. He had that English accent, and I always liked Tim Curry. I mean, it sucks he's sick now, and but he was one of my favorite actors. But again, he was big in the 80s and early 90s, but I don't get why people put that down, especially if you were in those movies. You don't realize how many people really truly do love you. Don't listen to these fucking people in Hollywood, man. Listen to the people who really watch the shit. We like those movies, and forever till I die, me and my wife are gonna watch those movies, and our kids are gonna watch those movies. My son, my daughters, they watch this shit and love it. They love these movies, and they're in their 20s. So don't say that shit. Most people do enjoy these movies. Don't listen to bullshit that you see on TV. The truth is, I bet you if we did a thing, and how many people watch The Breakfast Club still, I bet you're going to be very surprised more than you think. And that's why I did this, because this is the era me and James grew up in, and I did have something to talk about. That's why I was going to do this for the show, but Andy ended up, having an emergency. So we just decided to I wanted to talk about this. And I think people got to realize how great the 80s were, in my opinion, and the 90s. They were just a great time. I miss them. My wife is saying, man, I miss the 80s. I know she does. She was born in 75. I know James misses it. It's a time that we'll never get back. And now we got to sit in this fucking time. And it's depressing. It's depressing. Very depressing. And it's not, it's just it's just like there's nothing. Everything's just keeps on being remade and over done, and it just makes no fucking sense. And they say they hate the 80s and Gen X, but they make everything rebooted from us. They have to redo everything. They redo our songs. They gotta remake it better. They're doing, and one thing I forgot to tell you, they're gonna redo the Never Ending Story, and Disney's got their hands in it, so you know how this is gonna go. Yeah, I didn't want to tell you. Did you see the dragon? What it looks like? I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. They're gonna ruin another. The Never Ending Story is one of my favorite movies all time, with the Labyrinth, and a couple other movies. But they're gonna redo Never Ending Story. I want to punch the dude who ever. Why do you have to remake things? It just makes. I get it if you want to do another story, that's fine. But why? Now, the Karate Kid, they did that perfect. Like, I know the new season's coming out next week. The first part of it, they split it up in two since September, the other part. And I think they really did a good job of that show. And I really like how they did it. And that's because they did a continuation. That's fine. I don't know if you heard about the movie they're going to do. They're going to have Jackie Chan and and Rock and Ralph Karate Kid actually do a movie. They're going to be in the same universe. I don't get it. I don't know why. They should have done it on the show. It would have made more sense. I actually now the only thing I really like from now is the House of Dragons is the shit. I'm sorry, I love that show. I think they're doing a good job with it. That's one thing I do like. I got to throw that into them. They really do a good show. And The Last of Us, that's a great show too. I love that show too. But other than that, I don't give a fuck. But that being said, the Never Ending Story being remade is going to be fucking bullshit. I already know they're going to fuck it up. I know they're making Gremlins 3. So they are making a part 3. They're not going to make an add-on. I know if you watch the cartoon's really funny. I actually watched it on Netflix. It's really good. But they are no HBO Max. Sorry, it was on HBO Max. The cartoon's actually really good. But they are going to make a Gremlins 3. I don't know how that's going to go, and I know they're going to make Goonies 2. I don't know why, dude. 35,000 years later, I'm still gonna watch it because it's the Goonies 2. But Never Ending Story, you're gonna remake it with the fucking dragon. Looks lame as fuck. Looks like the bootleg, like from a Japanese. I'm sorry, dude. I'm really gonna be pissed. I already know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be mad, dude, because that's like one of my favorite movies. So that being said, and one other thing, that the lady who played in Never Ending Story didn't do anything after that. Now she just recently was in a movie, like playing a big part, and was crazy. I guess that was her first movie in 30 something years. Because I guess they saw her on Never and did some kind of documentary, and then she was in a movie. I forgot what movie it was. It was like a big movie. She was actually the star of it, and she was the girl, the Never Ending Story princess. She only did like one movie after and didn't do anything. For some reason, she's in this movie. I don't know why, but she's like the mom or something. I forget what the movie is. She's like a main actor now. Like she's been doing stuff, but it took her like 30 something years. Kind of like the guy from Indiana Jones, that the kid from the Goonies. He didn't do shit for years, and he made those movies and won an Oscar. So, um, it is what it is. It's still 80s, bro. Like I was saying, 80s is going back up because everybody wants the 80s. That being said, I know you got something to say, James. I can tell you've been wanting to say something, so go ahead, brother.
There's a lot of different things. First, let's talk about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, probably the only person that would be on his level would be like an Elvis, as far as just society, world-changing musician, just banger after banger after banger songs, man. I mean, unbelievable musician. And I know that there's all the stuff, accusations out there of things that he supposedly did. But I think it's kind of funny that a lot of that stuff never started until he started going against the powers that be in the music industry, and kind of like he bought all of these musical catalogs, like he bought the Beatles catalogs and a bunch of other ones, and he refused to sell back to them. And when he refused to sell back to them, that's when all these accusations of pedophilia and all this other stuff started. And it's also interesting that when you talk to people like Corey Feldman, who has no problem pointing out pedophiles when he sees them. You know what I mean? That's kind of his whole thing now, is talking about the people that abused him when he was growing up. But yet he claims Michael Jackson never did anything. Macaulay Culkin, same thing. Says Michael Jackson never did anything, that he never saw anything that was concerning, nothing. That all of these accusations are bullshit. So you got two people that were super close to him that said absolute bullshit. You have his personal security people that worked there at Neverland, who wrote a book saying that all of these accusations were absolute horseshit. That the entire time that they worked for him, years and years and years, they never saw not one time where anything was out of the ordinary or anything concerning at all. You've got Lisa Marie Presley, who was married to him, who says, and they got a divorce. I mean, they're not together. You know what I mean? And if anybody has a reason to talk shit, it's an ex-wife. You know what I mean? She says none at all. No accusation is true. She never saw anything that was at all concerning. Brooke Shields, who was around him constantly during that time period, also has said publicly, not a single time did she ever see anything that was concerning in any way. So all of the people that were actually closest to this man have said that they haven't seen anything ever that made them think that there was anything going on that shouldn't have been going on with children. So I don't know how much of that I actually believe, man. I mean, he had a trial, he went to court, a jury found him not guilty. They saw the supposed evidence and they decided that he was not guilty. So I don't know. As far as Michael Jackson goes, dude, I kind of come down on the fact that he didn't do those things. Because if he would have done those things, he would have been found guilty and put in jail. If he would have done those things, every child that he hung out with back at that time period, at least one of them would have said, hey, yeah, Michael's doing this stuff. Because think about this. Put yourself in Michael Jackson's shoes. Let's say you're a world famous pedophile who can get any little kid you want, right? Because you're Michael fucking Jackson, most famous guy in the world. You're hanging out with Corey Feldman, Macaulay Culkin, Emmanuel Lewis, the guy that played Webster, right? There's three of them right there. Three of the most popular children in the planet at the time. Megastars. Now, every person listening to this has had their crushes throughout their life. People on TV, they see and they're like, damn. You know, for me growing up, my number one was Daisy Duke, man. Catherine Bach. I mean, oh my God, was she beautiful. You know, that was like the one on my list. Now, if I had a chance to hang out with Catherine Bach and was in a position where I was so famous that she was putty in my hands and would do anything I asked, you think I wouldn't make a move? So if he was this crazy pedophile, how come he never made a move on any of the children that he hung out with that have come out and spoke, the famous kids? Why would they? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. Of course, that would be the most valuable thing to you, would be getting a famous kid because everybody knows them. And if you're a pedophile, maybe that's what you're into. I don't know. I don't know how pedophiles think. But what I'm saying is I don't think Michael did that shit. And if he did, then that's terrible. You know what I mean? I got no love lost for that subject matter. I hate pedophiles, dude. I think they're garbage. You know, I think a lot of our politicians and famous people today are in that camp. And I detest it. Absolutely detest it. I think it's horrifying. I don't believe Michael was in that category. I mean, yes, there was a lot of red flags, man. There was a lot of stuff that was kind of weird about Michael. But Michael was a weird dude, you know. But I'm not going to come out and say he didn't because I don't know. But I don't believe the rumors until it's actually proven. You know, the way I look at it, dude, he had his day in court and he was found innocent. So who am I to second guess a jury who actually saw all this evidence that was supposed to put him away forever, you know? So that's where I come down on Michael, man. But Michael Jackson was a musical genius. I mean, there's just no denying he changed music. It was unbelievable what he did. And one of the reasons why the 80s was so awesome was because the 70s sucked so bad. You know, I was born in 1974, and I remember the 70s. I grew up then. And I remember waiting. I talked about this last week on We're Screwed, waiting in line for gas and all that kind of shit, man. When Jimmy Carter was president, everybody thought that the best days of America were behind him, that we were done as a country. And it was depressing as hell. And then the 1980s come, and you got Reagan come into office and turned everything around. The country's booming. Everybody's making money. And everybody's partying and celebrating because it's like America's back, man. You know, it was a great time to be an American. And then you had Hulk Hogan, man. Hulk Hogan was like the shit, walking around with a big old American flag. And after the Eye of the Tiger theme song, his theme song was Real American, you know, and he'd come out to that song. It was exciting and it was amazing. And some of the best movies ever made, like Old Boy was talking about, were made in the 80s, dude. Ghostbusters, bro. Ghostbusters started in the 80s. Nightmare on Elm Street, that whole series started in the 80s. Friday the 13th started in the 80s. But you don't like Nightmare on Elm? Oh, yeah, you don't like Nightmare on Elm Street that much. But you had, like you said, Gremlins. You had First Blood, the beginning of the Rambo series. First Blood was the best one of them all. First Blood was an amazing film. An amazing film. You had the Rocky series. Now, the first two Rockies were in the late 70s, but Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 5. I mean, Rocky 3, there's no better Rocky than Rocky 3. And a lot of people talk shit about Rocky 3. A lot of the critics don't like it, but I loved Rocky 3, man. That was a great movie. You know, Rocky 4 was amazing when Apollo Creed dies and he's got to go fight the Russian. You know, that was a badass movie. Predator. You know, with Schwarzenegger, that was in the 80s. That was an amazing film. You know, some of the best stuff ever was made in the 80s. And it's just, it's funny how, like Old Boy was saying, they're remaking all this shit. And they're going to ruin it. I fucking can't stand Disney, man. Disney is the biggest woke piece of shit company I've ever seen in the world. Did you see that South Park thing where they're talking about what was it, like, make her black and a lesbian or whatever like that for every character in the movie, make her black and a lesbian. That's basically what they do. Everybody's got to be gay or trans. Everybody's got to be some person of color. And it's stupid. It's absolutely fucking stupid. If you want gay superheroes or you want characters in movies to be gay, then write new movies, invent new superheroes that are gay. Don't turn the people that we already know and love into gay or make them a different color. That's bullshit. They weren't like that in the beginning. You know what I mean? Don't tell me that. I mean, I heard that Wolverine's going to be gay in this new movie. I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's just bullshit I heard on Facebook. But that's what I heard, and I hope to God not, because Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is like the best Wolverine ever, dude. That's like the best, man. He's amazing. And if they ruin that, I'm going to be furious. You know, they did it. They ruined Green Lantern. They made him gay for some reason. Green Lantern, if you actually read the comics and you watched the original Green Lantern movie, he was a puss hound. Like, that was his whole shtick, was that he was a ladies' man. And then he became Green Lantern. So how are you going to make him gay? That doesn't even make any damn sense. You know, if you want a gay superhero, then make a gay superhero. But you know why they don't make a gay superhero? Because nobody will fucking care about a gay superhero. They don't give a shit. That's the problem. See, they act like everybody in the country is all for this crap, and they're actually not. The majority of the country hates all this shit too. It's a very small amount of people on what used to be Twitter that talk a lot, that are behind a lot of this bullshit. You know, look at how many people, when they remade The Little Mermaid and they made her black, look how many people got pissed off about that. You know, that shit's ridiculous. Why you gotta make Ariel? Don't make Ariel black, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you? Ariel was a white-ass white girl with red hair, for fuck's sakes. You know what I mean? How are you going to make her black? If you want a black mermaid, give her a black mermaid friend or something in the next movie. That's cool. I don't got no problem with black mermaids, whatever. Be a black mermaid. I don't give a shit. But don't turn Ariel black. She wasn't fucking black. You know what I mean? They made Snow White, I think it was, in the movie they came out with, into some like women's lib bullshit thing. That it's like ridiculous what she stood for. It wasn't anything like the original. Don't stop doing that. Stop fucking up movies and characters that we already know and love and trying to twist them to fit this woke bullshit that's going on. It's terrible. If you want to have that bullshit in your movies, make new movies with that bullshit in it. Leave the old movies the fuck alone, because you're ruining everybody's movies, and it's fucking terrible. You know, the reason they remake everything is because they don't have any ideas. You know, they can't come up with nothing new that's worth a damn. Everything they come up with that's new is garbage mostly. I mean, there's a few exceptions of things that are decent, but not much. And it's sad. It sucks, man. As a writer myself, okay, I know that there are a lot of talented writers out there that are putting out amazing stuff that could be made into amazing movies, amazing TV shows, but they don't do it. And the reason they don't do it is because they're cheap assholes. That's why they won't do it. They don't want to pay. That's the thing. They can remake something that's already been done. You could hire anybody to type up a script. All they got to do is look at the original movie and redo it. You know what I mean? That's easy. That's why they keep making all these remakes, because they know people are going to go see them because they love the original. And they don't have to spend money on writers. They don't have to spend money on original ideas. They just reuse shit that's already worked until they destroy it. And the thing is, they think that by making the lead character black or making them trans or making them gay or some bullshit like that, that it's going to fit in with the culture today, and more people are going to go see it because of that. And in reality, it has the opposite effect, because people get pissed off when you do that. You know, like I said, I got no problem with a character in a movie or a TV show being gay or being trans. I don't give a shit. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But don't take an existing character and fucking ruin it by making them something they weren't. You know, same thing. Don't redo Harlem Nights with Red Fox and Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. Don't redo that movie and make all the characters white. That wouldn't make any fucking sense. They weren't white. Don't redo Beverly Hills Cop and make Eddie Murphy's character a white guy. Don't do it. It doesn't make any sense. You know, there's a great movie called Victor Victoria. It's an old movie from the 80s. It's like a musical, and pretty much everybody in the damn thing is gay. It was a good movie. If you remake it, make sure all of those people are gay, because they were gay in the original movie. Don't make it a bunch of white straight guys. Make it what it was. You see, that's my point. This isn't like an anti-black, anti-gay, anti-trans bullshit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying stop fucking switching everybody and changing everybody black or changing everybody gay in order to try to win a woke audience. That's what I'm saying, because it's bullshit. Because you're ruining some of the greatest movies ever made. Look what they did to Ghostbusters, man. Ghostbusters was the shit. That original movie was fucking amazing. They came back out and they tried to do it with all women. And it was a piece of shit movie. And it sucks that it's a piece of shit movie. One, I love Ghostbusters. I think that was a great movie franchise. Two, I absolutely love Melissa McCarthy. I will watch any fucking movie Melissa McCarthy is in. I don't give a shit what it's about. I don't care what the plot is. I don't give a shit who else is in it. If it says Melissa McCarthy on the cast, I'm fucking watching that movie, because I love Melissa McCarthy. I think she is a great actress and she's funny as shit. She makes me laugh. I really enjoy her movies. So that's why I was like, I'm watching it. I don't give a shit. If it's some woke piece of shit, I'm going to watch it because I like her. Kate McKinnon, also from Saturday Night Live. That's another one. I enjoy her movies. My wife really likes Kate McKinnon. I think she's pretty cool. I like her, but not as much as Melissa McCarthy. But the movie was horrible. It sucked, man. Now, when they went past that movie, the next one they made where they had the kids, then it started getting good again, because that was more of a continuation of the original, to where you had the kids come into Egon's old place and he had died, and they need to find out what's going on. Now they got this new one out, you know, and I like that. And the guy that plays in it with him, I can't remember his name, and that sucks. He was the guy that played Ant-Man. I don't know his name. I know it, but I don't remember it. But he's a great actor. He's another one that I watch anything he's in, because he's amazing. He made a movie called My Idiot Brother that he was in also. That's a really, really cool movie. But I don't remember what that dude's name is. I'm sure when Old Boy gets back on, he'll tell me, because he knows all this movie and actor stuff. I don't know it as much. But yeah, man, the 80s were amazing. You know, and the cool thing about the cartoons in the 80s. Paul Rudd, yes. Paul Rudd is brilliant. I love that dude. I watch anything he's in. Anything he's in. He's up there with one of my favorite actors, man. Anything that says Paul Rudd, I'm in. I'm in 100% with that movie, because he's awesome. But the toys in the 80s had cartoons that went with them. That was the secret. And it's interesting. I watched a documentary on it. The toy company Hasbro and Mattel, they decided they were going to put out these toys. And they decided they were going to make little comic books to go with the toys in order to kind of get the people excited about the toys to buy them. So they released these little comic books of He-Man and G.I. Joe and Transformers and all this stuff. And that ended up turning into animated shorts, which ended up turning into cartoon TV shows on Saturday morning. And so it was cool because you could watch the cartoon. Like, my big thing with G.I. Joe, I love G.I. Joe. So I could watch G.I. Joe, and then I could go to the store and buy all those characters and play it at home myself and have like little battles and stuff like that myself with the characters from the TV show. And that was fucking brilliant. And it was an intentional thing they did in order to sell toys. Like, it was never designed to be a TV show or a cartoon, like to have a plot that people gave a shit about. They were really simple plots, and the whole reason for the show was just to sell toys. That was it. It was never designed to be a TV show. It was just designed to be a advertising vehicle, a marketing ploy to sell those toys. And it was absolutely brilliant because it worked beautifully. You know, I still to this day will watch G.I. Joe cartoons because they're that good. You know, I enjoy them that much. It has that nostalgia factor, and it has that just makes you feel good factor again, you know, because you feel the way you felt back then watching it, which is really, really cool. Video games as well really started taking off in the 80s. You know, in the late 70s, you had like the Atari starting to do some stuff with like the 2600. But then in the 80s, you had like the NES come out, you had the Atari 7800 come out, you had the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo. I mean, all that shit took place in the 80s and early 90s, mostly the 80s. And I remember that. I remember my first video game system was Pong. Like, not Pong on Atari, where you put the cartridge in and play. Pong was the whole system. Like, you bought the system and it was just Pong. You hooked it up to your TV and you had one rectangle, another rectangle, and a square that would go back and forth. And you would just move up and down and hit this square back and forth. It was called Pong. Later, it got re-released on the Atari 2600 as one of the games that you could play. But in the beginning, that was the very first one that came out that you could play at home if you didn't code it yourself. They also had computers back then, like Texas Home Instrument computers, Commodore 64, that kind of stuff, that you would get these coding magazines. And it was like a whole magazine was one game. And the whole magazine would just be zeros and ones. It was all written out in binary code. And you get on your computer on DOS. DOS, for those that aren't computer savvy, is when you have that, it's a blank screen, you just have the cursor and it's just flashing. You don't really see that anymore because everybody has operating systems like Windows and stuff like that, that when you boot up your computer, that's what happens is Windows comes up. Back in the old days, there wasn't nothing like that. You boot up your computer and it was just a blank screen with just a single cursor, like you're in Word document or something, right? Just that cursor blinking at you. That's all you had. So you'd get in there and you'd start typing zeros and ones. You'd follow along this magazine and it'd be 20, 30, 50 pages, whatever, of just zeros and ones. So you'd be like 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, on and on for like 50 pages, coding it. You were actually coding the game yourself. When you got done coding the whole thing, the game would start. So you'd spend 10 hours coding this fucking game, and it would start. I remember the one I played all the time was called Bash the Wombat, and it was basically whack-a-mole on the computer. Like, you would have this wombat that would pop up, and you'd have to hit him with a hammer. And it was the most simple, just regular shapes. The wombat would pop up. He's just like a rectangle and a square. And then you'd have like a long rectangle with like a square head on the hammer. And he'd pop up. You'd have to try to hit him with it, using your keyboard. And that was the whole game. And you would play that game for a long time because as soon as you turned your computer off, it was gone. And if you wanted to play it again, you had to spend another 8 to 10 hours recoding the entire game again. That was before Pong. Okay, so when Pong came out, it was like, dude, all I have to do is plug this up to my TV, and I can literally play this video game. I don't have to code for 8 hours. This is amazing, And then the 2600 came out, dude. You had combat, air-sea battle, adventure. You had Centipede. You had Space Invaders. You had Galaga, all that cool shit from back in the day. And it was amazing. Defender was an amazing game. And then I remember I bought the Atari 7800 the day it came out. I went and spent $200 buying it, actually. And I went back to base because we had just moved, and we were in what's called TLQ, which is temporary living quarters. It's like basically a hotel on base. It's like a little suite that you go and you live in until your base housing is ready. So we're in TLQ, and I come home from the store with this Atari 7800, and we turn the TV on, plug it up, turn it on, and I'm hooking it up to the TV, and there's commercials playing on the TV while I'm in the process of hooking this thing up. And the commercial came on for the original NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I saw Mario for the first time. And the difference, it was just 8-bit graphics. Okay, so it's not like it was groundbreaking stuff. If you guys remember the first Nintendo, it wasn't amazing graphics. But compared to Atari, it was night and day graphics, dude. It was amazing. And I'm hooking this thing up, and I'm seeing this commercial, and I stop. And I'm watching this commercial, and I'm like, holy shit. That is amazing. That looks like an actual cartoon. That's not just like rectangles and squares, dude. That looks like an actual cartoon. Wow. And they said, on sale now. I put down the shit I was working on. I went back to the store, spent another $200 to buy the Nintendo Entertainment System, brought that home, hooked that up, played Mario and Duck Hunt for the first time. And after the Nintendo, I got the Super Nintendo. I got the Sega Genesis as well. And then I bought the Nintendo 64, but I didn't like the Nintendo 64 that much because it was just weird. The controls were different. The way it looked on screen was different. It wasn't very fun to play. It kind of gave you, coming from an 8-bit and then a 16-bit world where everything is linear, right? Everything scrolls across the screen, every game, either this way or this way. So vertically or horizontally, it's going across the screen one way or the other. And then going to a 3D world where you could go 360 degrees, turn all the way around, that fucked me up. And it made me like motion sick in the beginning, dude. And I just couldn't stand it. I'm like, fuck this. I don't like this. So I literally gave it away. I bought it and I gave it away the same day to my little brother. And I went and I bought the PlayStation. And I had the PlayStation 2. And I was a PlayStation guy. 100% I loved the PlayStation. And then when I went to buy the PlayStation 3, the guy at GameStop was talking to me. And he said, you probably should buy the Xbox instead. He said, because this Xbox, they're not going to make another one for like 10 years. So you're going to have like 10 years of games that you can play on this. Whereas you have to buy all new games each time you buy a PlayStation. They release those every year. So you're better off to buy the Xbox because it's going to be a decade before you even have to worry about that again. And I was like, fuck, I'm sold, dude. That sounds great. Because that's one of the things I hated the most. You buy a new system, all your old games don't work. Because now a lot of this shit is backwards compatible. It didn't used to be back in the day. Like, that didn't exist. So you spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars buying all these games, and then you were just shit out of luck when you bought a new system. None of them worked. So I bought the Xbox 360. It was like the middle of the year. Fucking Christmas time comes along, and Xbox is putting out the Xbox One. I was madder than a fucking hornet, dude. I was so pissed. I was like, that fucking asshole lied to me, dude. He lied to me. I got to buy an Xbox One if I want to keep playing Xbox now. Or I can go buy the PlayStation, right? So what made me stay with Xbox was in the commercial for the Xbox One, they said that it was backwards compatible, that all of the Xbox 360 games would work on the Xbox One. And I said, fuck, I guess that means I gotta buy the Xbox One now, because I have all these games that I've spent money on. And I had already kind of found the Farming Simulator series that started on Xbox 360 with I think 13, and then 17 came out on it as well. 15 and 17. And so I think 17 did. I know 13 and 15 did. But anyway, I was in love with the Farming Simulator series. I play that shit still to this day. I have Farming Simulator 22. I play it all the time. So I didn't want to not be able to play that. And I thought, well, shit, it's backwards compatible. I won't have to rebuy this game. I already own it. So that's pretty sweet. So I guess I'll buy the Xbox, even though I was a PlayStation guy. So then I bought the Xbox One, and then recently I just bought the new Xbox, whatever the hell, the X or S or whatever the hell it is. I bought that when it came out, a little bit after it came out. I was waiting for one of the big ones to come, but I ended up buying the one that you can only do digital, because for like the first year or two that shit was out.
Series S.
Yeah, that's all you could buy. Like, I couldn't find the big one anywhere, and that's the one I wanted to buy, was the one you could play online and actually own the games. But I ended up just buying the one that I could get. So I have that now, and I play that all the time. But video games kind of started in the 80s. They really got popular, especially like in arcades and shit. I remember being a kid going to the arcade, man, blowing through. It was nothing to blow through $20 or $30 in a day at the arcade. Now, today, that doesn't sound like shit. Like, today, you spend more than that just eating at McDonald's for you and your friends, That's not a big deal. Back then, $20 was a lot of fucking money. And you could buy a lot of shit for $20 back then. It wasn't like today where $20 is nothing. In today's money, it would be like going to the arcade and spending like $100, $150 at the arcade. That's kind of craziness, you know what I mean? But we used to do it all the time, man. You'd go popping them quarters into them damn machines. It was unbelievable, man. And I've loved video games like my whole life. It's always been an escape. It's always been something that I could do for fun. Because I was a nerd, I was a nerdy kid. I was a member of Mensa. I was a lot smarter than everybody. So I didn't really fit in when I was little. And like everybody would be out playing. And what I would do during the summer is I would either be in a library sitting and reading about, ancient mythology and about Bigfoot and about ghosts and demons and all this, the shit we talk about on Staring all the time. I would be reading and researching that stuff when everybody else was out playing during the summer vacation. And then I got a little bit older and I would spend a lot of time out in the swamps and the forest and, wherever we ended up being. Because I grew up in Germany and all over the world. I've been all over the world, different bases and stuff. So I'd either be in a swamp or a forest or something like that and camping out there for weeks at a time during the summer and just living off nothing, catching my own food out of the river and living that kind of life, man. I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. And so I didn't have a whole lot of friends back then. I didn't do a whole lot of stuff, As I got older, I grew. I just kept growing and got bigger and bigger and bigger. I was never fat, but I got real tall. I'm 6'5" now, and by the time I was in junior high, I was like 6 foot tall. So imagine being 6 foot tall in junior high. Of course, they wanted me to play basketball and everything, so I did, just as something to do. And I ended up liking basketball and finding out that I'm very coordinated, which I guess all the martial arts kind of help with that because I've studied martial arts my whole life. And there's a lot of hand-eye coordination and striking and blocking and all that and doing kata and stuff. So that probably helped a lot with the hand-eye coordination for sports. But I was a really good basketball player. But I could dunk the ball in junior high school. I was already 6 foot tall. I was jumping up and dunking it behind my head and shit over top, these little kids who were like come up to my waist about, So I've always been gigantic. So I didn't have to deal a whole lot with getting picked on, except for when I was real little. But back then when you're real little and people pick on you, it's just calling you nerd or something. It wasn't no big deal. Just people talking shit, and talking shit's never bothered me. But I never had to worry about anybody beating my ass or anything like Old Boy went through because I was always a lot bigger than everybody else, And most people don't walk up to a giant and piss him off and try to fuck with him because he just just clunks their fucking ass and they're done. So, I mean, I've been in a lot of fights in my life, moving around a lot. It's kind of like, we used to say it's like being in prison. Like when you move to a new area, a new base, and you start a new school and all that shit, it's like you're moving to a new prison. And you walk in there and everybody's looking at you and everybody's sizing you up and deciding whether or not you're a predator or whether you're prey. So whenever you move to a new prison, the first thing you do is find the biggest son of a bitch there and beat the piss out of him, And so that was kind of my philosophy moving from school to school. When I would go to a new school, I would just find the biggest guy there and just get into it, and just start a fight and just beat the shit out of somebody. And then that would be the first fight in that place, and it would usually be only one of a handful of fights in that place. Because if you do it right, you don't ever have to worry about anybody fucking with you after that. Now, every once in a while, people will test you because they'll forget. They'll forget how bad you beat that dude up, or they'll forget that you are a badass yourself. Or they want to make a name for themselves or something, so they'll come up and start some shit. But usually, I didn't have too much of an issue because I was always bigger than everybody, and I was quick to fight. You weren't going to walk up to me and say something, untowards at me. You weren't going to talk shit to my face. You weren't going to bully me or push me around. I didn't stand for it. I'd beat the piss out of you. And you also weren't going to bully somebody else around me, because I wouldn't stand for that either. I hate a bully, and I will slap the shit out of a bully. To this day, I'll slap the shit out of a bully. I cannot stand that. And I don't like people that abuse and take advantage of people that are weaker than them. I don't like woman beaters. I don't like kid touchers. None of that shit. Because that's what you're doing. You're taking advantage of somebody who is weaker than you and can't put up a fight. And I don't like that at all. I will go aggro on you, man. Since we're talking about the 80s and 90s, I'll use the term aggro. That's from back then. I'll whoop your ass over some shit like that. I don't play that shit. I also don't like those people that talk a bunch of shit and then they don't do nothing. And you have a lot of that nowadays. I mean, nowadays you got a bunch of what they call keyboard warriors who are tough on the internet, but you get them in person and they're bitches. You know, you got so much of that, man. People talk so much shit all the time behind your back, and then when you're there, they don't say a damn thing. Or if they do say something, they're being real kind and nice to you because they can't back it up. You know what I mean? They can talk shit when you're not there and say, "Oh yeah, fuck that guy. He's a punk. He's a pussy. I'll whoop his ass. He ain't shit." But then when you're there, they got nothing but nice things to say. You know, we kind of went a long way away from the '80s, but I'll ask old boy. Like he talked about Weird Science. Weird Science is one of my favorite '80s movies by far. I love that fucking movie. Anthony Michael Hall was brilliant in that movie. He went on to do 16 Candles. He went on to do a movie called Johnny Be Good, which I don't know if old boy's seen that. That was an amazing movie where he played like a high school football star that was trying to be recruited to college. And he'd go to all these different colleges and party and shit, trying to choose which college. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's called Johnny Be Good. It's an amazing film that he was in. Not very well known, but very, very good. That film was amazing. And Kelly LeBrock, the one that played the woman that got created by the computer, smoking hot chick. That was another one that was one of my crushes growing up, man. Dukes of Hazzard. I talked about Daisy Duke earlier. Dukes of Hazzard was in the '80s. That was a great show. You know, it sucks that you can't get that anymore. Like you can buy it at Walmart now. They got the complete series that you can buy for like $50 or something. I think I'm gonna buy it because I love Dukes of Hazzard, man. That was a great show. I used to watch that every week. There was just so many amazing shows back then. You know, they had a bunch of cool like sitcom like shows like Silver Spoons, Mr. Belvedere, Different Strokes was early '80s. Might have started in the '70s, but I think that was in the early '80s as well. What You Talking About, Willis? That shit. That was a great show. There was just so much, man. That the '80s were just the shit. You know, they were the greatest. And the '90s weren't all that great, really. Like the early '90s were good because it was still kind of a holdover from the '80s. But once grunge kind of took over, it kind of started sucking, you know. And that's my wife's like heyday. That's where she came up, was during, you know, Kurt Cobain, Courtney Love, all that shit. That's her like '80s. You know, like the '80s is for us. That's her time. Is the mid to late '90s. It started getting shitty then, you know. Music wasn't as good. Society started going to shit. In the '80s, everybody was happy. Everybody got along. Everybody loved life. It was amazing, you know. You were proud to be an American. That America was rich. America was respected. You know, you didn't have people telling you what to think all the fucking time. You could think whatever the hell you wanted. You could say whatever the hell you wanted. And didn't have like the thought police saying, "Oh, you can't say that, otherwise you're racist. You can't say that, otherwise you're homophobic, you're sexist, you're ageist, you got so many things." Anything that ends in ist or obia, fuck that. It's bullshit. I hate all of that crap. You know what I mean? The way I look at it, dude, say what you want. Say what you want, because you know what? You can not say things that are racist or homophobic or sexist or ageist or whatever, right? You cannot say those things. But it doesn't stop you from thinking those same damn things. So you're just being intellectually dishonest to say, well, I don't say anything that anybody could ever interpret is this, that, or the other thing. You're full of shit because you still think it. And I guarantee you when you're in traffic, you probably let out some doozies, don't you? Everybody does when they're in traffic. They say, "You fucking piece of monkey shit, you dog-licking faggot, piece of crap." I mean, everybody goes the fuck off in traffic when somebody cuts you off and shit. You call them out by every name in the book. You know what I mean? I think society has just got retarded, man. And that's another word you're not allowed to say anymore, retarded. You can't say retarded. Why not? You know, I can understand if you're picking on somebody who's retarded. That's fucked up. Don't do that. You know what I mean? But what people don't understand nowadays, and I'll explain this for all you youngins that don't understand, retarded didn't mean mentally retarded back in the day. When we used retarded, it just meant you were dumb or you were goofy or you're acting in some way that was weird. You know, like, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. You know, that'd be the same way as saying, I'm not going to do that. That's retarded, man. I'm not doing that shit. We use that word for like 100 different meanings. Same with dude. We use dude for like a million different things. You could have a whole conversation just saying dude, you know, and different inflections of your voice made it mean different things. People nowadays look at it and they think it's like insulting to like handicapped people or something, or mentally retarded people, people with Down syndrome or whatever it is. That's not what it meant back in the day, man. I got no issue with Down syndrome people or people that have mental deficiencies in any way or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I got people in my family that are like that, and I got no hatred towards them. You know what I mean? I think the main thing is people need to just chill the fuck out and relax. That's one thing that was great about the 80s and the early 90s is everybody's chilled the fuck out, you know? Everybody wasn't all uptight about every damn thing. I mean, yeah, you had a few. You had like Al Gore and all them fuckers that were freaking out over, Twisted Sister lyrics and shit like that. And they had that whole thing in Congress where they had to go testify and all that bullshit. Remember Al and Tipper Gore? He ended up running for president as a Democrat. They were freaking out because of the lyrics and heavy metal songs and rap music and shit like that. That's why you had those parental advisory stickers on albums. That's why. It's because of Al and Tipper Gore holding those hearings in Congress and making them put those stickers on the album if it used curse words or talked about drugs or something that they didn't want you to talk about. That's where this whole thought police bullshit started, was with the Democrats. And it's still with the Democrats today. I mean, it's the same fucking people doing it, telling you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't think this, you can't think that. I say, fuck you. You're not going to tell me what to say. You're not going to tell me what to think. I'm going to say and think whatever the fuck I like. And if you don't like it, oh well. That's what the First Amendment is all about, dude. That's what freedom of speech means. Freedom of speech wasn't given to us so that we could say things that everybody liked. You don't need the First Amendment to protect speech that everybody agrees with. You need the First Amendment to protect speech that people don't agree with. I think nothing should be off limits. You should be able to say any fucking thing you want about any subject matter you want. I don't give a shit how offensive. I don't care how racist, how homophobic, how anything. I don't give a shit. You should be able to say anything you want. Let all those ideas get out there in the public sphere. Let it all be put in a big pot, and the public gets to look at all of it. And then you know what will happen? The public will decide what's okay and what's not okay. It will self-regulate, because what happens when you have a free society where you're allowed to express yourself however you feel like it? The people that say the horrifying shit that nobody wants to hear, they kind of get ostracized off to the side by themselves, and nobody pays attention to their ass anymore. You know what I mean? And that's the way it should work, because their ideas shouldn't be discounted. It's all data. All data is welcome data. Bring it all into the pot. Let's hear everybody's view. Let's hear every side of every issue. Let's hear what everybody, you know what? Come here. Come here, Mr. Neo-Nazi. Come here, Mr. KKK guy. Let me hear what you have to say. Put it into the pot. Let's hear it. Okay, what do you want? What do you believe? Okay, yeah, we don't agree with that. Fuck you. Go stand in the corner. That's the way it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to say, you're not allowed to say this. We have to protect people from this kind of speech or that kind of speech. That's bullshit. We are Americans. We can say and think whatever the fuck we want. And you need unpopular opinions, because public perception changes. Look at the shit we were talking about on Staring years ago, when we would talk about the elite pedophiles and all the stuff that's actually come out about Jeffrey Epstein and about all the corruption and shit with a lot of the politicians. We talked about that shit years ago on Staring. It got us shadow banned on YouTube talking about that shit. Now it's commonplace to talk about. 100% true. When all this COVID bullshit hit, I flat out said on the show, masks don't fucking work, they're bullshit. Don't get the Fauci-ouchie jab, it doesn't fucking work, it ain't going to protect you. It's going to fuck you up, it's going to give you myocarditis, it's going to cause this, it's going to cause that. I laid all that out on the show in the very beginning, and we got in a lot of trouble for doing it. And they tried to say, you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to say that. But now look at what happens. Now it's accepted. Everybody knows that what we said was true. It's commonplace for people to say it now. But you tried to ban it back then. That's the problem with trying to ban speech, is speech that isn't popular. And back then, that speech was not popular because people were scared to death. And coming out and saying that the one thing that the government said would save them ain't going to save them was very unpopular, and people got very pissed off about it. But I was right. I was 100% right. I was 100% right about the corruption bullshit that goes on in the government. I was 100% right about Epstein and all that fucking nonsense that happened. I talked about all that shit, and you can ask old boy, he was there. I talked about every fucking bit of that shit on the show years before it became public. And what happened because of it? We got shadow banned on YouTube. We lost a lot of our audience. People got pissed off. I had people in my life that got pissed off at me for saying what I said and unfriended me and blocked me and all that kind of shit. Not a single person has apologized for it. You know what I mean? But that's fine. I said what I said, and I take whatever responsibility I got to take for it. But I was fucking right. And by trying to ban that speech, if I wouldn't have been allowed to say what I said, then some people wouldn't have got to hear the truth. Now, they did try to ban it. They tried to limit it. They did everything they could. I can't tell you how many times I was in Facebook jail over that bullshit. I lived in, dude, I used to do lives on Facebook all the time for the show. And we would do these little live videos where we talk to the fans and promote the show and shit. I had to stop doing them because literally I have not been allowed to go live on Facebook for years because I spent so much fucking time in Facebook jail that they literally took away my right to go live for like a lot of years. I don't know if I can do it now because I haven't done anything in a long time, so maybe I can. But and you can ask old boy about that as well because he remembers me trying to go live and not being able to even join his live. Facebook wouldn't let me do it because I was banned from doing the lives and shit. You know, that's some bullshit. That's some communist Russia bullshit. That's not America, man. You know, that's bullshit. And the fact that I was 100% right about every damn thing I said, that's what pisses me off more than anything. And you got all these assholes that will listen and leave comments and stuff and tell me I'm full of shit and tell me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Go look at those old shows, man. Go look at them. I talked about all the shit that's taking place now. I've been talking about Biden since before he got elected, saying exactly what everybody's saying now about it, that he wasn't capable to do the job, that he was suffering from some sort of dementia or something like that. His brain was all fucked up. I was talking about that long ago. You know, I talked about the corruption in the Ukraine with Biden before it happened. I talked about the Hunter Biden bullshit ever since the laptop came out. Before the laptop, I was talking about that dude and the corruption. Now it's all known. Now everybody agrees that it's true. Back then, everybody called me a liar. And they tried to ban that speech. That's why you don't ban speech, man. Because it may not be popular, but sometimes the unpopular speech is actually telling you the truth. And you need, like I was saying earlier, that data. You need all those data points. Because if a lot of people that only watch CNN or whatever, they didn't get all of those data points. They were told that people like me were conspiracy theorists, that we were lying to them. When in fact, the government was lying to you. CNN was lying to you. Doctors were lying to you. I was telling you the fucking truth, you know? But that's what happens when you try to ban speech. I'm going to give it over to Old Boy because I've been talking for a while and see what he has to say about everything. And he can kind of back up some of the things I was saying because he was there for him.
Well, one thing, after I throw it over to you again, I still want to ask your opinion on the thing I was talking about, the Breakfast Club. Oh, that's one thing you forgot to do. A lot of stuff that we said we were told it was, conspiracy theories. And do remember, a lot of this stuff I'm going to say that James said we did get, there is a lot of truth to that we did get shadow banned. Now, I had COVID and almost killed me. I have a difference of opinion on that. And we all know that there was stuff being used to push an agenda. And the mask, most masks did not work. If you had the one, it was like $30 fucking dollars. That one did work to a point. The one was like you put your own fucking face and you couldn't breathe. That was the only one that really did work. The cloths didn't work. Those fucking ones they made you wear, this didn't do anything. So what do they call it? What was that mask called? The one it actually did was like 50%. I forget what it was called. The one that was like fucking. You had like a filter in it.
It was the N95 mask, but even that didn't really work. I mean, it worked a little bit better than surgical masks.
It's probably the best one you could use.
Yeah, but it didn't stop shit. I mean, you could still easily catch COVID wearing that shit.
But I mean, if you're gonna wear something, that was what you were supposed to wear because it worked about 45%. Most of the stuff we said is there is true to it. It was all called conspiracy theories. We were fucking laughed out about the molesters in Hollywood, and look at all the shit that's going on now. The funny thing is, if you notice, some of it's all going away. Like P. Diddy, no one's talking about that anymore. No one's talking about that shit no more. Everybody's kind of letting it go and under the brushing under the ground again. Yeah, Joe Biden, we've been saying shit about him for a while. Everybody's been saying that Trump was saying this shit before he won lost the election, that he wasn't fit to do it. I could see that. The problem was with Trump is he's just, you know, too much shit happened and people said, fuck it, whatever happened. People could say they cheated, this and that. This is one thing I'm going to say. Now most people see what James is saying and he's not there. Now they're trying to backtrack on that, and people are like Whoopi Goldberg's, I don't care if he shits his pants. You know what? That's not helping him. You know, yeah, you might think it's funny because you're, you know, a Democrat, but people like me who are independent, that doesn't look good. We have countries that are watching this right now. Now, granted, I have an opinion on. I still think that we have it's whatever whoever's going to win, we're going to have a bunch of drama because I don't think Joe Biden's going to be the candidate at the end. I think that he's going to get out soon. It's going to probably be Kamala Harris and now they're saying Newsom. I also don't know who Trump's going to pick as a VP. They asked him today on Hannity. I saw something about it on Facebook. Somebody posted it, and they said he still didn't answer. My personal opinion, I'm not going to vote this year. I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks. Somebody asked me, why wouldn't you vote? Because I don't have to fucking vote. I don't have to do shit. That's like James said, that's my freedom. I don't care what you vote. I just don't want to spend the time on it. I don't care. California, there's no point. Everything you have to go one way. Yeah, I mean there is some independence going on, but I don't want to say that because look what happened in New York. You know, that squad leader got beat for the first time in 13 years. A Republican won in New York. I'm not saying that you know that it's going to happen all the time, but it happened. So I just have a difference of opinion. But yeah, James is pretty much right what he said about Biden. He said Biden was crazy. Not and that he wasn't really there, and he really isn't. And I think it's sad that they keep pushing him. It's kind of his wife. People are kind of talking about that now. His wife's kind of keeping him in the race. I don't know why. I think people want him out, but I mean, I saw like AOC was defending him today. But I'm looking at it this way. Right now, I hate to say it, but I know a lot of people don't like Kamala Harris, but right now I think she's better off being in office to whatever happens in 4 months, and it's probably going to be Trump. But I'd rather have her right now because at least she can think. Joe Biden, I don't know if you saw that you know that ABC interview he had a couple days ago. You know that George Salopoulos, I'm probably destroying his name. He said after the interview he doesn't think Trump should be. I mean, not Trump. Biden should be even. He should drop out of the race, and he's even saying that now. And he just did an interview with him. I don't know if you saw that lady got fired just recently. Was on that show that I guess she put out the transcripts that they were trying to get her to talk to Biden a certain way, and she told, and they fired her just recently 2 days ago. And I think he needs to get out. I mean, I saw Google. They're trying to say, look, they're predicting Joe Biden's going to win. I don't know if you saw that stupid shit. Of course, anybody can put Google to say anything. Who gives a fuck what Google's? Yeah, Joe Biden is not going. He's even saying he's not going to be in the presidency, even if he runs. I mean, if he stays in and somehow he wins, he's not going to be there after the 6 months. He's going to leave. They're already talking about it. So right now, my personal opinion, and this is what I'm going to say: if you're got any chance to win Democratic Party, you need to get him out. And I know James doesn't like the Democratic Party, but that's just the truth. That's the only way they're going to win. If they win anything with the presidency, they're not going to win with Joe Biden right now. He fucked himself 3 weeks ago. That was 3 weeks from today. That debate fucked him. It doesn't matter what he says or does. He should never. And if he stays in the race, he should not debate Trump ever again. I know there's going to be another one in September, but you see what Trump's saying. He wants to do one in 2 weeks. Uncensored, no blocking anything. He wants it. And Joe Biden's stupid enough, and I think Joe Biden's stupid enough to take him on. I think that's a mistake if Trump doesn't have anybody shutting off his mics. But in fairness, I kind of don't want to see that because all they're going to do is interrupt each other, fucking argue. Like the last two, the first two times are a mess, dude. Like it was just not. The third one was, they shut them both up. Even Biden on this one, they were pissed off because they weren't letting him talk either. It was just, my personal opinion is, I don't want to sit there and hear him argue with the person debating the show with him. Not him debating with fighting with somebody who's saying he said this and said that. I don't want to hear that again. My personal opinion is I like how this debate went. I think it should stay that way. I think if it happens in September, I don't think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be Kamala Harris. I really believe she's going to be the president soon. And I mean, she's going to take over Joe Biden's thing. I think that's the only way they're going to win. I think right now they're just playing it off but I think there's too many people right now. I don't know if you just saw the poll. 70% of people, this was on CNN, said they want him out. I just think there's going to be too many calls. I think there's too many people saw that, and there's no coming back from this. And I don't care what anybody says, oh, just vote blue. I don't think people are. That might be the Democrats saying that, but the independents are not looking at that. And that's who you're right now. You need the independents to win any of the race. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell everybody this. And right now, the independents are looking for Trump. And even though a lot of people don't want that, 50% of them, but they're looking at it as, can he do the job? And he can. And it isn't Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't do it no more, guys. I'm sorry. That was horrible, dude. Like, now he said he can't do anything after 8:00. You're running the fucking country. You can't say that, dude. That was dumb, dude. You're saying that you can only be fresh from this time to that time. No. You think if somebody attacks our country, they're going to wait to 8:00 and wait till you go get up from your nap? No, they're going to attack us when at our weakest. That should have never been said. That's why I'm worried. And people should be. I'm not saying let's get Trump. We have to do our election. That's just how it goes in 4 months. That's what we have. A little bit less than 4 months now. I don't like Kamala Harris that much, but it's better off in what we have right now. And we need, because we could end up in a war right now before this fucking election. I think it has to go that route for right now. I don't know who would be the vice president. I mean, technically it was the person in the House, isn't it? I mean, isn't that how it goes? But he's third, and isn't he third? That's if Kamala Harris got something happened to her, right? Wouldn't he be the president? How's that work?
The line of succession, if let's say that right now, okay, Biden is president, Kamala Harris is vice president. If something happens to Biden, Kamala Harris moves up to president, then she chooses another vice president. The only way the Speaker of the House, which is third in line, would get in is if the president and the vice president both die, like at the same time. Then you have to go to the Speaker of the House, and it's like the Speaker pro tem of the Senate. And it goes all down through a whole line of succession. There's a whole bunch of people that are down there on that thing. But basically, if Biden stepped down, Kamala would be the president, and then she would choose her own vice president. But the problem is, they're talking about a primary here. And how do you get rid of Biden that the voters voted for? The Democrat primary voters voted for Biden. He won the primary. So those delegates that are going to the convention to name him as the nominee are committed to Biden. Now, they're trying to say, well, if they move Kamala up and Biden says he's not running, the delegates could vote for her because she was on that ticket as well. But really? I mean, she's on there as vice president, not as president. That's the best case they had to do it. But if you look at all the polling, they just released polling with everybody against Trump. They did a poll with him versus Biden, him versus Kamala, him versus Newsom, him versus Whitmer, him versus Hillary Clinton. They even put Al Gore in the mix. They put everybody they could conceivably think of. Trump destroys them all, including Bernie. He's up on Bernie by like 8 points. They got nobody on the bench that can take on Trump. The very best polling against Trump was Biden, believe it or not. And he's down by 6 points. Trump is above him by 6 points in the overall polls, in the aggregate of all the polls. So they got nobody that can do as well as Biden can. And that's the sad thing. I don't think Biden should be president for a myriad of reasons. But I agree with you 100%. The dude is not there upstairs, period. And you can't have somebody in charge of the fucking country that can't even form a sentence, man. You know, that's nuts. He's not cognitively there anymore. He wasn't for a long time. But he's especially not now. You know, I mean, he might not even live till the fucking election. And where they screwed themselves is they chose Kamala Harris as the vice president. They chose because they were trying to hold on to the black vote. Because the black vote was starting to go towards Trump. So they said, we need a black vice president. And let's go ahead and do a black woman vice president. That way we get the women too. Because of the Hillary thing. Because Hillary was trying to run again. So they wanted to placate the women who wanted Hillary. And they wanted to placate the black voters so that more of them didn't move over to the Republicans. So Kamala Harris was a DEI hire, a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. It had nothing to do with her capability at all. She sucks, man. When she was in the fucking primary, she got 1% of the vote and dropped out real early. Like only 1 or 2 primaries in, she had already dropped out of the race for president because she had zero support. She only got 1%. And she was embarrassed. The only reason they put her on there was because she was a black woman. That's it. And the problem is, that's how they fucked themselves. Because now they see she can't win. Nobody's going to vote for her. Her numbers are worse than Biden's numbers in polling. The problem is they can't get rid of her. Because if they get rid of her and replace her with somebody else, then they're replacing a black woman with a white man or a white woman. They can't do that. Because the Democrats, remember, that's the entire idea of the Democrat Party is race hustling, race baiting, pulling the race card constantly. They're always calling everybody racist and all this stuff. They can't. They can't take a black woman who could be the first black female president if she's on the ticket and say you're out completely when she hasn't done anything wrong. She's not senile. There's no reason why she can't take that spot. So they have to go with her. Otherwise, they really fuck themselves. You see what I'm saying? All their little Democrat voters are going to freak out. So they've really screwed themselves. The only person that could take that spot, and they might be able to get away with it, is Michelle Obama. Barack wants Michelle to run. Michelle doesn't really want to run. That's the problem. If she wanted to run, then they might have something. But even in the polling with Michelle Obama, she does worse than Biden does against Trump. Because people don't like Michelle Obama like that. You know, Democrats do. But you got to get the independents, like old boy said. No Republicans are voting for Michelle Obama. And you're not getting that many independents to vote for Michelle Obama either. Because people remember Michelle Obama. They remember that she fucked up their kids' lunches and made their kids go hungry at lunch because they cut the serving sizes way the fuck down. So the kids didn't have enough to eat. They remember her saying that Barack Obama getting elected was the first time in her adult life that she was proud of America. People didn't like that shit when it happened. See, I don't forget shit like that. And neither does a lot of voters. You know, she's not as popular as you think she is. Like, you know, the Democrats think she is. And in the polling, she doesn't even do as well as Biden. Kamala actually beats Michelle as far as percentages. Kamala's at 43% against Trump. Michelle is less than that. So Biden is at 43 as well, but he's got a little bit of an edge on Kamala, even though it's the same percentage, but there's a little bit higher actual vote total. So Biden's the best they got. Kamala is the backup. That's all you got. You know, nobody else does as well as those two, and they can't win. So they're fucked. You know, the only way they're going to be able to win is if they cheat worse than they've ever cheated before. That's how Biden won this time, is they cheated like they've never cheated before. You're telling me that Joe Biden, who ran for president like 6 times and never did well, everybody thought it was a big fucking joke. Everybody always talked shit about him and made fun of him. You're telling me that he got more votes than any other person in history? He got more votes than Barack Obama? I know Republicans that voted for Barack Obama when he ran the first time because they believed in his bullshit. They believed when he gave a good speech and he'd come out there and talk about ending racial struggle between whites and blacks. He came out talking about hope and America being this great place, and that he was so proud to be an American because it gave him a chance growing up and all this other shit, right? Everybody bought into that. And everybody thought, if I vote for the first black president, I can be part of history. If I vote for the first black president, that means that we can finally end all this racist nonsense that everybody's always talking about in this country. That was the thought. That's why a lot of Republicans voted for Barack. I didn't vote for Barack Obama because I knew Barack Obama was full of shit. Because I knew about Barack Obama's past. I knew about his past in Hawaii. I knew about his mother's connections to the Communist Party. I knew about his connection to Reverend Wright and his anti-American bullshit. I knew what Barack Obama was. I knew about his connection to the Muslim Brotherhood. All of that stuff was public knowledge before the election. Just most people don't pay attention. And that's the problem. The problem is most people don't know shit. That's the problem. You have an uninformed public. That's why when Old Boy said that people decided they weren't going to vote for Trump just because all the nonsense that happened, all the craziness, that was the Democrats' plan. We know that all of that shit that they said about Trump was bullshit. All of it. The Russia hoax was bullshit. The Stormy Daniels thing was bullshit. Stormy Daniels came out in an interview and said that she never even had sex with Donald Trump. It's all horseshit. Every single one of those scandals is bullshit, and everybody knows it now. So you're not going to vote for Trump because the Democrats attacked him with lies. That makes no fucking sense. The guy made the greatest economy in our nation's history. Whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, you have got to admit this country was kicking ass when Donald Trump was in office. The economy was roaring. We had some of the lowest gas prices in history. We had the lowest black unemployment in history, the lowest female unemployment in history, the lowest Hispanic unemployment in history, the highest rate of black home ownership in history. I could go on and on and on. Everybody was doing well under Donald Trump. The economy was fucking great until COVID came along. COVID fucked everything up. Kind of funny that COVID was leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China, huh? Now, what did the Democrats tell you? What did the news tell you? They try to pretend that a bat and a penguin got together and made some kind of weird disease, and somehow somebody ate a bat in some market somewhere, and that's how COVID got to. It was ridiculous. It's like, don't you think if we have a sudden appearance of a respiratory disease called COVID, right? Where did it start? Wuhan. Okay, what else is in Wuhan? Oh, a biolab that works with infectious respiratory diseases. What's one of the diseases they were working with? COVID. Isn't that interesting? The exact same disease that almost destroyed the world and destroyed this country for a while just so happened to come out of the exact same place that had a lab that was working on the exact same disease. But yet, if you said that, and I said it at the time, that it was a lab leak from Wuhan, you can go back and listen to the shows where I said it. I said it very early. Everybody said it was crazy, that it came from eating a bat or some nonsense. Now everybody knows it was a lab leak. That's another one of those examples. But it's kind of funny that everything was going great until that happened. So was it an intentional leak? That's interesting, isn't it? What if we find out that it was intentionally done by people in order to destroy the economy to try to make sure Donald Trump couldn't be reelected? Now, a lot of people are going to say that's conspiracy talk. Kind of makes sense, though, doesn't it? Nobody else is talking about that. But it's a very good possibility. We know it was leaked. And there's also strong evidence that it was leaked on purpose. You had that lady who actually worked at that Wuhan lab, that Chinese lady who was defecting, who said that it was a leak on purpose. She was talking about that shit. Interesting. Is it true? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But it's kind of funny that Donald Trump was a shoo-in for re-election. Overwhelmingly, everybody was going to vote for Trump because the country was doing better than it had ever done. Everybody was doing great. And then all of a sudden, COVID comes along. Then when COVID comes along, you had all these Democrat governors that shut their state down. And what did people do? They got pissed off at Trump because their state shut down. They can't go do anything. Trump didn't shut it down. The governor of the state shut it down. Your Democrat governor is the one that did it. But yet the blame got put on Trump for it. You know, it's a lot of shit. I think that it was definitely something done on purpose in order to try to derail him so that he wouldn't get reelected. And even with all that shit, they had to cheat their ass off in that election. There's tons of videos showing people taking boxes, big boxes of ballots out from underneath tables and bringing them over and running them through the machine 3 or 4 times in a row. The same ballots 3 or 4 times. Tons of video on it. It was shown all over the fucking news on Fox. You could have easily seen the cheating. You're going to tell me, oh, Trump's ahead by like almost 10% in this state, and then all of a sudden, oh, wait, we got to stop counting votes because we had a pipe burst. So, you know, this pipe just magically burst, and now everybody has to leave, and we can't count any more votes until the pipe is fixed. But then when they come back and start counting votes again, all of a sudden Biden's ahead by thousands of votes. And then you look at the security camera footage, and you see them running the same ballots over and over and over again through the machine. So they're counting the exact same fraudulent votes 5, 6, 7 times in a row. And you're going to tell me there was no cheating? That's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's 100% bullshit. And that's another thing that everybody claims is misinformation, and it's not. Biden said it in the fucking debate. He said, there wasn't a single judge that agreed. He took it to every court he could, and there wasn't a single judge that found that there was cheating. That's not true. The case was never heard in any court. Every single judge said that he didn't have standing to bring the case. They didn't even look at the fucking evidence. They just said he didn't have standing, which is kind of ridiculous. How can he not have standing? He's the guy that got the fucking election stole from him. How did he not have standing? So basically they were allowed to cheat. There's all kinds of security footage of people showing up to those mail drop boxes where you're supposed to go and drop your ballots off during mail-in voting. Those mail drop boxes, they were all kinds of people showing up with literally case after case after case of ballots that were already filled out and just standing there and putting hundreds of ballots into this box at once. You can't tell me there's no cheating. You know what I mean? It's bullshit, dude. I've seen the fucking evidence. I know damn well they cheated. Everybody knows damn well they cheat in my state all the fucking time. That's why Virginia was a blue state. If you look at the map of Virginia on election night, 99% of that map is fucking red. The only blue area is Richmond and up by D.C., Fairfax, Manassas, that area. That's the only place that's blue pretty much, is the city. And it's funny how the whole rest of the state is red, but somehow they end up with enough votes in those 2 areas to make the whole state blue and to have a Democrat governor when they had that Northam guy as governor. And it's funny because I was watching the returns that night. It's my fucking state. I was paying attention. And it's interesting because up in Fairfax County, you had more votes than you had voters. More votes than registered voters in Fairfax County. Same thing in Richmond. So what happened was they control the polling areas there. They stack the fucking ballots there. They feed a bunch of bullshit ballots in and count them to win the state. They're not real votes. You can't tell me if you've got 50,000 voters that 75,000 people vote in that district. That doesn't make any fucking sense. How is there 25,000 more votes than there are voters? Does that make sense to anybody? It's obvious cheating, but they get away with it because nobody does a fucking thing about it. And do you know why nobody does a fucking thing about it? Because 99% of the entire fucking system is dirty. That's why. That's some of the shit that I was talking about back then on Staring. That's some of the shit that got us shadow banned, is talking about that very thing. That it's not just the Democrats. Yes, I talk shit about the Democrats a lot because they're fucking communist bastards. But there's a lot of dirty ass Republicans too. I'm saying it's 98, 99% of all of the government is dirty as fuck. And they got to be taken out, man. They got to be thrown the fuck out. We got to start all over again. You know, there's a lot of shit that has to happen in order to fix this. There's whole sections of government that have to go away. You know, let's talk about the Department of Education. Why the fuck do we have a Department of Education? Do you know that no scores at all have gotten better since the Department of Education came into being? That it's just constantly gotten worse and worse and worse to where we're ranked lower and lower and lower in the world? We used to be ranked pretty high in education in the world. And then the Department of Education came along and fucked it all up. And now you got people graduating high school can't even fucking read in the inner cities. That's some bullshit. So how do you fix that? Well, one way to fix that is charter schools. You take the money that these people pay in taxes for public education, and you let those people have that money. And they can choose whatever fucking school they want. So they can send their black child in the inner city that has a shitty school with metal detectors where they don't teach them anything. They can send that kid to an actually good school that they can learn something in. And it doesn't cost them anything else, because their tax money would go towards paying for that education just like it does now, except for it wouldn't pay for it in a shitty school that's not teaching them anything. They'd have their choices schools. That's the charter school program. That's what Republicans want to do. Guess who's stopping that? The Democrats. Democrats are 100% against charter schools. They do not want the inner city children to have a chance at life. They don't want them to get educated and to know anything and to have a better opportunity to get out of poverty. Because if they get them out of poverty, then they won't vote for handouts anymore. It's all about control and power, dude. They want to keep you stupid. They want to keep you poor. They want to keep you sick. So you got to keep living off the government tit. As long as you're living off the government tit, they can control you. That's what it's all about. And you might get offended at me saying that, but it's 100% the truth. There is no reason, and I want to be 100% clear on this, and I want everybody to understand it. There is no fucking reason why black people should not be able to do just as good in school as white people or Chinese people or anybody else. They're not dumb. The reason why they don't have a future is because you've left them stuck in these inner city shitholes run by Democrats, and you don't give them an opportunity. You put them in schools that don't teach them even how to fucking read half the time. They got to worry about getting killed going to school. There's metal detectors everywhere. The schools are run down hunks of shit. The teachers don't even fucking care. They're just trying not to die. When you have a program that would give them an opportunity to go to a school and get a chance at a good life, how can you in good conscience stand against that? It's bullshit. It doesn't cost the American taxpayer not one fucking dollar more. It's the same money we're already paying. But yet you could lift a whole generation of students out of poverty. You could clean up these inner cities. Why don't you do it? Because you don't want to fucking do it. Because your whole gimmick is convincing black people in the inner city that somehow the Republicans and the white people are against them. When in reality, the Republicans are the ones that are trying to actually fucking help. We're the ones that are actually trying to get you a good education in a charter school. And it's been like this throughout all history. Look at the Civil War. Look, who was the slaveholders? Who were they? They were the Southern Democrats. Who was the KKK? The Democrats were the KKK. Woodrow Wilson was the first president in history to screen a movie in the White House. Do you know what movie he screened? It was a movie called The Birth of a Nation. It was a KKK propaganda film. He had high-ranking members of the Ku Klux Klan to the White House to watch the movie with him. He is a champion of the Democrats. Look at civil rights. Who were the people? We've all seen those images of little black children being bitten by attack dogs and having fire hoses sprayed on them, all that horrible shit that was happening when they were trying to desegregate the South and integrate the school system. Who stood against that? Who was the ones that wouldn't let that happen? It was the fucking Democrats that were doing that. The Democrats are the ones that sick the dogs on those kids. They're the ones that turned those fire hoses on them fucking children. It wasn't the Republicans. The Republicans voted 100% for the Civil Rights Bill. They were 100% for it. Where does our current president, Joe Biden, stand on it? Joe Biden was against desegregation. His exact quote about desegregating the school system and desegregating the buses was he didn't want it to happen because he didn't want his children and their school to be turned into a jungle, equating black people with fucking monkeys and gorillas. That's what Joe Biden had to say about it. Joe Biden gave the eulogy at a KKK Grand Cyclops' funeral. Strom Thurmond. Called him a great guy. Said he was one of his idols. It's the same. Who are the people that are holding the black people down? Black people, you need to listen to me and you need to understand what's going on here, man. You fucking people are being lied to. The Republican Party is not your enemy. Who runs every city that you're living in that have ghettos in their shitty places? It's not the Republicans. Every 4 years, Black Lives Matter come out and they riot and they burn every fucking thing down because of some shooting or another by police. Every time. In those cities where those shootings happen. Who runs the city? Who's the mayor? Who runs the city council? Who's the police chief? All Democrats. So how the fuck is it the Republicans' fault that a Democrat mayor allowed the Democrat city council and the Democrat chief of police and Democrat cops to shoot a black guy? How's it the Republicans' fault? See, this is the problem. Too many people just listen to what they hear on the news and they don't ever fucking think for themselves and they never look anything up and they don't know what the fuck happened. They just go with bullshit slogans. Hands up, don't shoot. That never fucking happened. It was bullshit. That girl who supposedly got shot in her house. And they were just laying in bed peacefully. Bullshit. They were shooting at the fucking cops when they came to the door. That's why she ended up getting hit. Because her piece of shit boyfriend was shooting at the police. They never tell you the truth. It's always lies, lies, lies. It's always bullshit, man. And I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of being told that I'm fucking racist. I hate that bullshit. Fuck you for saying that about me, anybody that did. Because you want to know the truth about the situation? I've got scars all over my fucking body. I've been sliced open here on my face. That's why I always have a beard. Because my whole fucking chin here was laid open, hanging down on my fucking chest almost. My arm got sliced open. There's a scar. I don't know if you can see it on camera, running all the way down through there where I blocked a knife. My head looks like a fucking road map full of scars. From boards, chains, knives, bats. You know where I got all those scars? Fighting the fucking KKK in Illinois. When they were beating the shit out of black people. And I stood up and fought. Physically fought them. That's how I got these scars. So for your little millennial piece of shit ass to look at me and tell me I'm a fucking racist, fuck you. I bled for civil rights. What the fuck did you do? Calling me a goddamn racist because you go on social media and type Black Lives Matter. Fuck you. I'm so sick of these fucking idiots, man. I know I'm getting fired up, and I know you're a more mellow person on this show, but for fuck's sake, dude, I'm tired of hearing it. It is such bullshit. It is absolute bullshit. The Republicans are not the enemy of the black people, period. Donald Trump had the lowest black unemployment in history, the highest job participation rate in history for black people, the highest home ownership rate in history for black people. He's the only president in history to permanently fund historically black colleges. Only one to ever do it. He set up opportunity zones with Dr. Ben Carson and a couple other gentlemen in inner cities that provided job training programs and education programs for inner city children. Most of them were black, so that they could have a chance to get a good job and raise themselves out of poverty. He did prison reform, where people that were convicted of nonviolent crimes like drug offenses, which are mostly black people, thanks to Joe Biden and the fucking crime bill that he passed in the 90s. It was his bill. He called black people super predators. Hillary Clinton said they needed to be brought to fucking heel. That black people had to be brought to heel because they were out of control. That's why the 90s crime bill got passed. That's what locked up all the black fathers. That's why all these black children are running around with no fucking dads. It's because of the Democrats. They're the ones that did it. Look it up. He gave those people that were locked up for the rest of their life for marijuana and dumb shit like that a chance to go before a board, appeal, if they haven't gotten in trouble in prison, actually get out of jail and go and be productive members of society again. He did that shit. That is why his numbers are better than any other Republican with blacks. That's why he's got amazing numbers with the black community now, is because he actually did something to try to help them. So to call that man a racist is horse shit. You know, I'm so sick of the slurs. I'm so sick of the nonsense from these fucking people. All they ever fucking do is lie. And then they pretend like you're some kind of monster if you don't agree with their bullshit lies. You can't fucking tell me those lies, dude. I was there. I lived through the fucking shit. I bled for it. I know what the fuck it was. You know what I mean? Don't sit there and I'm not saying you, old boy. I'm saying these fucking dumbass liberals on social media. Don't sit there and pretend like Republicans were the ones holding blacks down in the entire past, because it's bullshit. There's always been Democrats. Democrats were the slaveholders. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican. He fucking freed the slaves. The crime bill passed by Democrats in the 90s led to the problems we have now. The Civil Rights Bill, 100% Republican support. The Jim Crow laws were passed and put in place by fucking Democrats to keep black people from voting. They were repealed by Republicans. Look this shit up. Do your homework, man. Learn your fucking history. You're being lied to. You're being lied to by the very same fucking people that enslaved your grandfathers and great-grandfathers. Those same fucking people are lying to you now, and they're keeping you enslaved to this day in inner-city shitholes, living off the government tit and locking you up in jail. These same fucking people are doing it to you still. Stop voting for them. Stop fucking voting for them. And all you white people that are voting Democrat because you think that it's the right thing to do because Republicans are racist, you're fucking stupid. Do your research. Look this shit up that I just said to you. All that shit is true. You can look it up. You will see, if you actually study history, that Democrats are the ones that did all this shit to the black people, not the Republicans. Every step of the way. Every single thing that the black community is bitching about was done to them by Democrats. Every single one of them. We didn't do any of it. So what the fuck is everybody so pissed off at us for? That's what I want to know. How come we're always called the racists when we're the ones that freed the fucking slaves? We're the one that gave them the right to vote. We're the one that gave them the right to be in a desegregated society where they could eat at the same fucking restaurants we did, drink out of the same fucking water fountains we do, and eat and go to school at the same places where we go to school. We did that. The Democrats were against it. What the fuck, guys? I don't get it, man. I'm going to throw it back over to old boy because he's been sitting there patiently through my whole rant. But seriously, I don't fucking understand how anybody with a straight face can believe that bullshit. Have you never even seen a book? Do you even know what a book is? Because I guarantee you, if you find the right one and you open it up and actually fucking read the thing, you'll learn exactly who's responsible for all this bullshit. And it's not the Republicans. It's no coincidence that every time a Republican gets in office, the economy does better. Could it be because Democrats are dumb when it comes to economics and they always fuck everything up? Probably. It's not a coincidence. But they're still going to vote that way, I guess. Doesn't matter. You know, that's the sad thing, bro. It doesn't matter what you tell them. They don't learn. You know, you got some people that are independents that are in the middle that can actually learn something. And it's good to get the information out because they can hear it. They're smart people. They'll go look it up for themselves and see that I'm right and say, holy fuck, I've been lied to this whole time. You know, and it'll make a difference with independents. Will it make a difference with most Democrats? Probably not. Probably not, because most of them are so damn dumb that there's no coming back, man. And that's a sad thing. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. Anybody stupid enough to say they don't care whether Joe Biden is shitting himself and can form a Senate, they'd still vote for him. You're a dumb shit. You shouldn't be voting. That's the way I feel about it. Because if you're not smart enough to understand that puts every single person in this country at risk, because every other country is looking at that and seeing that this guy cannot make decisions and cannot properly defend the homeland, if you can't understand that, then you're a fucking idiot and you shouldn't be allowed to vote, in my opinion. Oh boy. Go ahead, brother.
Still waiting for you to answer my question about the Breakfast Club, but hey, don't think that's going to happen.
Hold on, real quick. Breakfast Club. Love the fucking movie. Absolutely want to see the documentary. Let me know when you figure out what channel it's on. I will 100% watch it. Okay. Now go.
Hulu. So good. I'm glad you finally got that. That was what I originally wanted. I'm going to say something that may make some people mad on both sides. I think this is sad the way it's gone. And I'm talking about all together. I don't care who's right or wrong. I just think that when we came to this country in before it became America, is what makes no sense to me is, why was this shit going on in the first place? We left this shit to get away from all this shit, and we're back to the same fucking thing. We came to a country that, what people don't realize is, was already inhabited. The Indians were here first. And we all know that now. I mean, there's no denying that. And most of our ancestors were when they came in here, they moved, except the Vikings. I don't know what happened. I heard there's some shit that happened before that. And people have to realize, Columbus never found America. That shit needs to change. I never liked Columbus anyway. He was a fucking traitor. But when we came here, things should have changed then. The fucking slave shit should have never happened. It did. There's no denying it. That's one thing we all know happened. I don't give a fuck who did or didn't do it. The point is, that should have never happened. I don't care what time it was. Slaves should have never happened ever. But it did. There's nothing you can do about it. We were enslaved by the British, the Irish, the Scottish, the Italians. And we tried to get away from that, but yet we come here and the same shit's going on. And people say, well, this didn't happen. It did happen. It did fucking happen. California wasn't even a part of the country till the 1800s. And you know the crazy shit that was going on in California? Billy the Kid, all that shit was going on. There was no fucking, in California, what's crazy to me is I've lived with so many different races. I don't have these problems. And I know James, in Virginia and back east, New York and stuff like that, they're more populated with different cultures and different races. But in California, when I moved here, like, there was all kinds of different races. We didn't have all the shit that when I lived in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of racism going on. I mean, there's racism that happens here, but it's more African American and Mexican Americans have a lot of problems here in this state, because the majority is Hispanic in California now. Whites are second. I think blacks are third, but Asians are catching up because they're like 8% now. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with anybody. I just wish everybody would just realize that we're not better than each other. This is supposed to be a country that we're all supposed to be accepting each other. It doesn't matter what you believe in and what your race is and what your sex is. It's not supposed to be this way. And yes, you should have freedom of speech, unless you're threatening to kill people. That's a whole different thing. I don't agree with that. That if you're telling people you want to kill a whole bunch of people in that's not talk. You really want to do that. That's just you expressing. I don't think threatening to kill people is and saying that is getting anywhere or hurting people. That's different.
I would argue that you absolutely do want that protected, because if that's protected and people have the right to say that, then you have advanced warning of a threat before it happens, and you can actually go and take care of that. You can go and see if that person's actually a threat and plans on actually doing it. You know, the authorities can investigate that person and all that. If you make it so you can't say that kind of thing, then that shit kind of stays under the radar and you don't have as much warning, you know? I'm not saying I agree with that kind of speech, but I'm saying it, even the worst possible speech is good to hear because then you have all that information. You see what I'm saying? And you know, okay, well, this person, I can see that this person is a homicidal fuck and he wants to do some really sketchy shit. So everybody can see that now. Stay the fuck away from this guy. Keep your kids away from this fucking guy. Cops, kind of go look at that guy because he's saying this shit right here on social media or whatever. Go and check him out and make sure that that things are cool, that he's not a real threat. You see what I'm saying? I think in reality it would actually be better if we had more of that kind of speech from the people planning on doing it, because then we could actually root them out, maybe stop some of this shit.
What I'm talking about, if you're getting ready to get in an altercation, I threaten to kill you. That's not free. That's illegal. That's a terrorist threat. You can go to jail for that. If I'm in a Virgil and I say I'm going to kill you, that's not freedom of speech. You're threatening. See, that's another argument on that. The debate that if I threaten to kill you and I don't take it seriously and I kill you, then it could be see. There's a counter to that. Now I get what you're saying, but if I threaten to kill you and we're in an argument and I kill you, then I made a threat and they didn't take it serious, and there's the argument back. Now, what I'm saying is I get what you're saying is you make a point, but I'm throwing it back. The problem I have with that is it is true. If we don't see what people are really about, they're going to hide it and have it in their hearts. You can't change what people think. You might be able to stop what they say, but they're going to think it. And I understand what James is going on that point, and he does make a point on that. The point is, this country was made supposed to be free. And it's not really free if you think about it. You have to pay taxes that we actually went to war for originally, and now we're doing again even worse. Our ancestors wouldn't have put up with this shit. And we're doing nothing about it. Now, the problem is, though, what could we really do with the technology they have now? Shit, you don't even have to send troops after you. They just do drones and fuck you over. And look what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and stuff like that and you know what was going on in Israel. It's not going to be fought like you thought on Red Dawn and you know in the 80s. That was a different time. They don't really. There's no really winning a civil war, and it's going to happen here. I'm going to tell you this right now. Civil war is going to happen. It's coming. I don't want that to happen, but you know, history repeats itself. Now, I want people to realize this. I like everyone. I'm married to somebody out of my race. She's a El Salvadorian Turk Latino who's very stubborn, but a wonderful woman. And she came here legally from El Salvador. So I have no issues with anybody. If you come to this country, and my personal opinion is, most people from Mexico come here for a better life, and they're not bad people. I know a lot of Mexicans out here, and they're really good people, Hispanics and Latinos, because I know it's not just Mexicans. It's El Salvadorians, Chileans, and most of them come here to do jobs that most people are not going to do because they're too damn lazy to do it, and that's the truth. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I live in the state. I see what most people are not going to go to the fields and do those kind of jobs. Construction, they're not going to do that fucking kind of job. Predominantly, it's Hispanics doing it. And most of them are good people. Most of the people who come to the bank are really great people. You know, and it's not just like I was saying, the younger generation, they're not all bad. It's just a lot of them are taught fucked up dumb shit. And they don't know everything. They get taught, they just listen to what's being taught in schools and all this shit. And it's not being the right stuff. They don't get it. Look, you have a right to hate America. I'm sorry. We fought for you to say that. Why our ancestors did. You have a right to say you hate this country. We have a right to. There's people have a right to tell you to go fuck yourself and leave. They have a right to say that too. when two sides start arguing about what should be said and what shouldn't is the problem. Republicans, not all of them are good people either, bro. I'm sorry to tell you that. And I'm not saying and you're not a Republican anyway. You said you're more left that you go that route. But most issues I've had in this state is by Republicans, racist Republicans. And I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are cool people. I'm not saying every Republican's right. I'm not going to say that or every Democrat's great, because I've met some asshole Democrats and independents and liberals. And what else? What's the other one? The libertarians. There's more than just independents. I don't want to just keep saying independents, because there's the libertarians. A lot of Republicans I've met are very racist, bro. They might not say that, and I don't care if they see this, but they always make comments about different races. And they're not going to be honest. When I came to the state from Pennsylvania in the 80s, I listened to rap. You know what I was called? A wannabe N-word. By majority at the time was white people. Now, I'm not saying all of them. Some of them were cool. But a lot of Republicans I've met out here are racist. They say horrible things about blacks, gay people, trans. And I'm just saying that. But I've met a lot of Republicans who are cool people, independents that go the right. I've met a lot of Democrats who just listen to CNN and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm just saying is this. The way I'm looking at it is I'm seeing what's going to help this country. Right now, I can't vote blue. If I had to, even though I don't want to vote for Trump, I'd have to go that route. And it's not because I agree with everything he says. It just, if we get attacked tomorrow, I don't trust Joe Biden. And that's just being straight up. But I don't care what you fucking think of me. I'm just being honest. Joe Biden can't protect this country right now. He looks weak. And that's just truth. It's already been said. Russia said he looked weak. Putin said he looked weak. That's not good, as our fucking enemy thinks that he's weak. That's just true. That's why I said I'd rather have Kamala Harris. I don't care if James doesn't like her. It's the truth. She's better off right now, her being in office, than Joe Biden. Because at least she can think. He can't even talk without his wife fucking belling him. Look at him. She's always talking for him now. He shouldn't be in office anymore. If I was a Democrat, I don't know why you're even thinking about it. I get it. And here's the thing is, Robert Kennedy is running still in this race. But he was runner-up to Joe Biden. If Joe Biden does get out of the race, he can be nominated and take those delegates, because he was the runner-up to Joe Biden. And even though he ain't going to beat Trump, but that would be more of a reality, because Robert Kennedy said that he was the runner-up in the Democratic Party. He left it, but he still can take those delegates, because if Biden forfeits, and it has to be Joe Biden. See, he does have an argument. Robert Kennedy was talking about that. Technically, if Joe Biden gets out, he would be the runner-up, not Kamala Harris. So he does have a point, because he was the runner-up in the Democratic Party. They just didn't want him to run against him. But he got the most votes on the Democratic side. He actually, what they were showing with Kennedy is he was like about 9% to Trump. He's got about the same chances for Bernie. You got to remember which poll you go by. If you go by Fox, it's 10 or 11%. You go by CNN, it's 6 or 7. I'm going by the national one. It was like he was winning by 6, but CNN had Kamala beating Biden. So, I mean, I'm talking about the recent one, like from yesterday. So my personal opinion is, if the Democrats have any chance of winning, get Joe Biden out now. Every day you sit here and don't do nothing is another day that you're making more people go, well, fuck, this guy can't do shit. Most people are looking at this guy and they're not going to vote for Joe Biden. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, what he does. He's not going to get into office. And if Kamala Harris gets in, the only way she's going to win is I don't know who they have she better get a goddamn good vice president. I don't know who's going to be. But she's going to still have to debate Trump. And I don't know how that's going to go. That's gonna be an interesting one, because Pence kind of handled her. And Joe, the only thing I'm worried about Trump is he going to say something that's going to make him look like he's a chauvinist, because he has to be very careful with if he debates Kamala Harris, and that's because I know she's going to try to bait him in to say something about women, and that's not the best idea to do. And like I said, it's Trump's race to lose. I don't think Trump, if he debates Kamala Harris, I think he needs to really watch what he says, because people right now are going to see, is he going to say something about women? Because they know how a lot of people think he has a bad opinion on women, and if he says something where it's out of the ordinary, it's going to, because I know he took on Clinton, but he can't really be that aggressive with Kamala because there's reasons for that. Clinton was just open season. Kamala Harris is a different kind of person, and I think he should handle it in a different way. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Joe Biden's so damn stubborn with his wife that he's not going to get out. And if he does, it's not going to be anytime soon. It's not going to be to August. It's going to be too late. And I think his pride, like Trump was saying, I guess I saw something where he was saying it's his pride and his wife, and there's people saying that. The point is right now, Joe Biden, I know you're not going to listen to the show. Do the country a favor and just bow out the way you can. Save yourself some kind of dignity. And I'm not saying this to help anybody. I'm just saying it is this is a person saying that, you know what, it's you're maybe a little too old to run for the country, and it just, you're not there anymore. Like, I seen you 2 years ago, and when I saw that debate, and what recently before that, he just loses. He can't even keep conscious. He's like, starts talking about shit that doesn't make any sense, or he waves out and starts walking out to the fucking nowhere. I'm being serious. I'm not a Kamala Harris fan, but I would rather see her in office right now, because I'm thinking of the American people. I'm not thinking of what I believe in and what's the best at this time. She's going to be the best option, because that's the only way you can go anyway. There's nothing else you can do. I just don't know what to do anymore with this situation. I think that people hate Trump so much, they don't care that we have somebody who shouldn't be in office anymore. I mean, most of the Democrats really want him out. They just don't want to say it because they'll be ridiculed against their own party. But if he steps out and just says, you know what, instead of using the 25th Amendment, because that makes them look even worse, I think Joe Biden would come out and say, you know what, to save himself some face in his party, admit that he was wrong for doing the debate. He realized then that, I'm just not capable of doing it anymore. Come out and be honest as much as you possibly can, and say, I want Kamala to run, whoever the fuck she gets, whatever. And I think that would help your party more than it would hurt it. But if you get yourself taken out by the 25th Amendment, that means they had to force you out, and that looks bad. If you come out and say, you know what, guys, I'm just not capable of doing the job anymore, walk away. At least you save face in yourself, and you save face for your party. And people are going to say, yeah, you know what? He knew he couldn't do the job anymore, and he stepped down. And no one's going to look at you wrong on that. That's probably the best way to go, instead of having somebody remove you or just fuck you over and give you somebody else your delegates. And that's the way I would do it, is just walk away, because there's no winning this. If you keep going, it's going to get worse, dude. If he does another debate with Trump and he does even worse, they're going to want him out the next day. But to save yourself some face and some dignity, just walk out of it, man. Like, say, hey, you know what, I'm not, and do it the right way. Tell America's the truth. Say, I can't run the country anymore. Kind of like, with what happened with, Nixon. Just, he got caught, but he resigned, and maybe that's the best way. But do it the right way. Help your party. Say, you know what, you vote for her. I'm gonna leave, but you know what, do this, and it makes you look better. You keep doing this is making yourself look worse and worse, and just look like you're just trying to stay just so Trump doesn't win. when you could really help your party if you don't stay in the damn race. I'm sorry. If you got out, you might have a chance to win. And I'm just sorry. Yeah, the polls might this, but give it a couple months. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse than it already is. He can't maintain even talking for like 10 minutes. So, and even with that interview, the guy's even saying that he shouldn't be the president. Anybody knows that. He's just not, he's just an elderly 82-year-old man, dementia, whatever people say. He's just not there anymore like that. He can't worry about our country. He needs to worry about surviving and with his family and retiring. And that somebody who can run the country that's a lot younger. Kamala Harris was 57, 58. And we don't have to worry about something like that. She's, I have my opinions, but at least if something happens and somebody attacks us, we have somebody who can make a decision. I think Joe Biden, if we got attacked, would bumble the decision for what he wanted to do for a couple days. Look what happened with China when they sent the air balloon here. They didn't do shit about it. Then he finally did when people bitched about it, and it was a week later. Think about it. If we get attacked, do you think he's going to do something right off the bat? He's going to think about it for a couple days. We can't have that. You have to have somebody who said, fuck it, we're going to attack you right fucking back. And right now, he's not the person, man. And I'm just saying that and not that I love Trump or love anybody else. I just think that we have to think about our country. What are we going to do? Are we going to sit here where we have somebody, Vladimir Putin's threatening our country? He has threatened it numerous times of nuclear weapons. And North Korea has threatened our country, Iran. And it's like not a big deal. It's just we'll keep talking about Trump and the 25th crap that's coming up, or whatever that is. And he's even saying it's not true. I think they're so worried about getting Trump out of office. They're not really worrying. What we need to do now is we need to get Biden out because he can't manage the presidency anymore. And they're so worried about fucking Trump. Everybody's so worried about what fucking Trump is doing. That's 4 months from now. We need to quit worrying about what's going to happen with Trump and worry about it in election time, and then go with the option we have now. And that's just the truth. That's just being straight up honest. Like I said, Kamala Harris should be the president right now for the next 4 months, the election, whatever happens, that happens. But Joe Biden shouldn't be anything anymore. He should retire. He's going to be 82 years old, and he acts like he's 92 years old. He just can't function anymore. It's sad. It's sad to see that happen, but it is what it is. And I'm going by it just being honest. I'm not going, this was said in this conspiracy theory. And I'm just being honest. Being a person who's looking at this, I was looking outside the box. We can't have somebody who can't really think anymore. And he's even said it. He needs to get more sleep because he can't go over 8 o'clock. You can't do that. You can't say that to our country. My friend who hates Trump said it. They fucking said that. That made him look worse. It's saying you can't run our country all the time. So if you only can part-time run our country, it's time for you to leave and let somebody run our country for the next 4 months. And whatever happens election night, it's going to happen. Trump wins, he doesn't. Whoever takes him on wins. It doesn't. As long as we have somebody who's capable of thinking, that's all that matters to me right now. I'm thinking of the country. Trump can't take office because he's running for president. That's not going to happen. We know that. We need to put somebody else who's going to know what they're doing. And Joe Biden just not that person anymore. Not scaring anybody, dude. If I was another country and I'm looking at this, I'm like, America's primed to be attacked right now. They hate each other. They're divided. Their president's old, doesn't know what he's talking about. They don't know what to do. It's time to take care of business in the United States. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that somebody's going to say, fuck it, let's just go out. And it's not just going to be one country. It's going to be a collusion of 3 or 4 of them. And yeah, we're the greatest country we have the greatest military in the world, but we can't beat everyone. And this whole we're going to shoot nukes off, we're not going to do it. Maybe one, but not. We know what's going to be the consequences. We're going to have like Red Dawn. Red Dawn's going to happen one day. I really believe that. Maybe not like the movies, but it's going to happen. It's coming. And we'll do a show next week about a civil war. I want to talk about that. I wanted to do that, but then that 80s thing came up, and we'll do that probably next week's topic when Andy's here. But that being said, I know we're getting late. We've been doing the show for a couple hours, so I want to give out my shout outs. Thank you guys on Spotify, YouTube, whatever you listen to us on. I think Cloud. Thank you for listening to us. You guys got to realize, just because people have different opinions doesn't mean they're racist, they're bigots. Maybe if we start listening to each other and maybe listening to what the problem is and maybe solving it, instead of, oh yeah, I'm talking about all sides of it, and just listen to each other. And yes, we'll hear the people who are crazy and they don't need to fucking talk anymore. Like he's saying, get the fuck out of here. Go fuck yourself. Go send them off. When they were showing the Nazis running in Tennessee, and then they showed the Israelites, let them fucking destroy themselves, dude. Fuck off, both of you sides. You know what? Whatever. You know what? If that, maybe that's what's meant to be. Let them destroy themselves, because I think we can get some things solved in this country if we just sat here and said, hey, this bothers me, you bother me, hey, white people, you do this, you did this shit, black, everything. You know what I'm saying? If we get this shit out, I think that the healing will begin. But you have too many people who are so angry, and it's all sides. It's never going to be. It's just going to get worse. Maybe one day something has to be bad happening to something good come out of it. As crazy as that sounds. I think we need each other one day, and it's going to happen. I think that we're going to need each other one day. All of us. And one day it'll be great. Nothing's going to ever be perfect. We're always going to have conflict. But I think that maybe one day we can get away from this shit and go back to living in a normal world. And I'm glad everybody likes the show. Most people, people have their opinions. I'm glad you follow us. Keep checking us out. We're going to try to get on other platforms down the line, maybe iHeart or something. But I'm glad you guys listened to us. Thank you for listening to Staring the Abyss. Thank you to our fans everywhere. That being said, have a good night. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Lovers, and Demon Hunters. I fucking love you from We're Screwed. You have a great night, guys. Go ahead, James.
Thank you, brother. What I would say to everybody is just do your research, man. Nobody talks about an invasion. Nobody talks about that this country is right for one right now because of what we got going on. And then you look at the fact that our border is wide the fuck open. And you've got over 100 people from the terror watch list that's already been caught coming in. That's just the people that have been caught. Imagine how many terrorists actually got in that weren't caught. You've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of military-age Chinese people coming in. Chinese men, without women with them, without children with them. Just the military-age Chinese men by themselves. Hundreds of thousands of them have come across our border. He talks about an invasion. It's already happening. They're already here. You've got terrorist cells all throughout this country now. You've got whole armies in this country just waiting for orders, man. I guarantee it. Why else would all of these people be coming in, all these military-age people with no families? Well, we talked about Mexicans that he know that come across just wanting to make a better life for themselves. It's true, but most of them come with their families. They want to make a better life. I got no problem with those people. Come through the right way. Come through legally. And I understand the legal system's kind of fucked. I get it. That needs to be reformed. I think what we need to do is completely shut the border down. Seal it completely. Build the rest of the wall. Seal it. No more immigration at all. Zero. For the time being. Then you round up every one of these motherfuckers that came over here illegal and you kick them out. Deport every single person. Every one of them. They can all go back to Mexico and have a hearing. And then we can decide which ones we want to let in, all that kind of shit. And then when we do finally allow immigration again, it needs to be a merit-based system. We only allow in as many people as we actually need to fill jobs that can't be filled by Americans. Oldwood talked about them coming in and doing jobs that we just won't do. He mentioned construction. I used to work construction. The reason why a lot of Mexicans work in construction, it's not because that regular Americans wouldn't do those jobs. It's that regular Americans cost too much. They had to pay us a good wage to do the job, where these people that come over illegally will work for $4 or $5 an hour. So instead of having to pay $15 an hour at a time, now it'd be more like $20, $25 an hour to an American to do that job. You can hire somebody who's illegal for $4 an hour or $5 an hour, and you don't give a shit if they get hurt. You don't have to pay insurance. You don't have to pay any of that stuff. That's what it's all about. It's not that Americans won't do the jobs. Americans would gladly do a lot of those jobs. The problem is the companies don't want to pay Americans to do those jobs. They don't want to pay a good wage. They want to pay as little as possible. So that's why they hire illegals, because they'll work for next to nothing. You know, have a merit-based system where if there are truly jobs that we cannot get Americans to fill, then you can have them come in on work visas and do those jobs. But other than that, you know, if we don't need you, there ain't no reason for you to come here. You know, call me heartless if you want. I don't give a shit if you're trying to have a better life. I give a shit about our country. I give a shit about our citizens. That's what it's supposed to be about. And there's no reason why American citizens should be unemployed and not being able to get a job. And you've got tens of millions of illegals here working. That doesn't make any sense to me. They already broke the law by coming here illegal. They shouldn't be here. If they want to come through legally, I got absolutely no issue with that. But the people that come across illegally, I got no sympathy for you. I don't give a shit what you're fleeing. I don't give a shit how bad your life is where you come from. Fuck you, go back there. You're not supposed to be here. You did not do it the proper way. You are taking jobs from Americans. You're taking opportunities for Americans. The Democrats under Joe Biden are signing these people up for Social Security and food stamps and Medicaid and all that shit. They're bankrupting those systems. So regular Americans, actual American citizens, are having trouble getting the help they need because you have all these people that aren't even supposed to be here that are taking those benefits. It's not racist to say that. That's bullshit. You can't tell me that American children have to go hungry, who are citizens of this country, whose parents have paid into this system, that they have to go hungry because we got all these illegals that have come in, that they should get the benefits first. Fuck that. America first. They can go to hell back where they come from. They need to be deported. If they want to come here, they come here legally. We need to shut that shit down. Because the problem isn't even the people that come here trying to have a better life. That's not even actually the problem. The problem with having an open border is those terrorists coming in, those military-age men coming in. That's the problem. You have MS-13 gangs that have flooded across this border. They're everywhere now, killing Americans. That stuff's fucked up, man. We shouldn't allow that to happen. There's nothing good, there's nothing humanitarian about allowing gang members and criminals to come across our border and victimize our American citizens. That's exactly what's happening. Everybody fucking knows it's true. A lot of people don't want to admit it. A lot of people don't want to say it because they don't want to be called racist, but it's fucking true and you know it. You know? It can't happen, man. We gotta pull our heads out of our ass and start doing things right. The problem is, like old boy was talking earlier about if Trump was to debate Kamala Harris, you got to be very careful about what he says because she's a woman. Then she shouldn't be in the fucking debate. You see what I'm saying? That's a bad metric. That's a problem. If you can't even be honest and say something because the person is another race or a person is a woman, that's fucking stupid. Why the fuck are we even... The whole point of the debate is to get to the bottom of shit. I want them going at it. I want them fucking head to head. I want to see it. Because I want to know who the fuck I'm voting for. If you're such a wimp and such a weak person that you can't even handle a verbal debate with somebody, how the fuck are you going to lead our country in war? How are you going to be able to make those decisions that keep us safe at night? If you can't even handle somebody saying something to you. If you're that fucking weak, you shouldn't be president. That's the way I feel. You know, this country's gotten way too soft. People are way too soft, man. They're offended by everything. You hurt their feelings, and it's like the world has ended for those people, man. Getting back to the 80s that we were talking about, we come from a time where we insulted each other all the time. You didn't worry about hurting people's feelings. You said what the fuck you wanted to say. And we were tougher for it, you know? So anyway, that's it. That's all. No more. Too late. Too many hours. Too tired. Let me know down in the comments section what you guys think. As always, up to you to make up your own mind. And we'll catch you on the next one. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye. And don't forget, Martin Luther King Jr., Republican. Bye-bye.